tell them where we've been. And all I know is that if you can't find me, you may never want to find me again. 'Cause people don't understand. People don't understand. People like me.
Then your life shall...
The best part about showing videos like that completely unannounced is that I can see everyone's faces. It's just utter and complete confusion throughout the entire process, which makes it absolutely great. So, welcome to episode 35 of the Barroom Podcast. I figured if this episode is going to get copyright claim due to what we're going to talk about tonight, but we might as well go out with a bang. So I decided to bring in my best buddies to help me join it for this momentous occasion. And I'm here once again with the freshly cut Rob Motto. How you doing tonight, Rob? Oh, I'm just fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing all right, especially after that video. Also joining us, joining us here tonight is our good buddy Orange Hat Reviews. How you doing, Orange?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
And right below me on the not quite center square, but here is Cole Classic Cage. How you doing, Cassie?
I am having an amazing time. That game Hogwarts Legacy is awesome. We're stomping on the fucking losers that tried to cancel this game, and the gamers took the dub. Is awesome. And if you guys looked on Twitch, there at one point there was like 1.2 million viewers on Hogwarts Legacy. So boycotts by non-gamers clearly fail in the gaming space. What do you fucking know?
Also joining us here center square tonight is the Adventures of Pete and Pete. How you doing tonight?
Doing good. I love your outfit, Cassie. That is a fantastic shirt.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I also like your hair. I noticed you did get a pretty nice haircut yourself, like the two well-groomed men in the center stage. I see you.
Oh, wait, Orange Hat got his beard done too, so you guys are all groomed tonight.
He looks like a villain, which is not a bad thing.
Well, my opinions tonight might be very villainous. So,
or
Van Dyke.
Yeah, right. Also joining us from the West Coast tonight is our good buddy Nerdigans. Now, Nerdigans, if I pay you $100 PayPal, would you do that mystical dance from the beginning of the video? Can you reenact that entire video for $100 PayPal?
No, I'm not going to do that. I'm desperate, but not that desperate.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you this right now. I am extremely entertained by the meltdown from the Chainsaw Man anime fans in the West, because they cannot handle that the Blu-ray is bombing in Japan, because they do not like that the director went with like a style that panders to the West.
Yeah.
And it is glorious to see them buy on copium.
All I have to say is Dreamcast. And then, of course, down below is our good buddy, The Leaf, C.S. Johnson. How you doing?
Technically Quill, but okay.
Whatever.
It's my Kanye mask. So
as they say in basic training, it's whatever I say it is. Nice. We got a good Graphcast people in our chat tonight too. We got Duke Nukem here. I don't know what this is. He always speaks in some foreign language every time he starts, but he did ask us an interesting question. Who would you smash, Margot Robbie or Alexa Bliss? I would say that Alexa Bliss is less irritating to me right now, so I guess she would win by default. I'm not sure if you guys would differ on that opinion.
That's quite a
Who's Alexa Bliss?
Have to combat
She's
with.
Is she that wrestling chick?
Yes.
What are you smashing them with? Like a building?
Your penis, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't have one
Well,
of
not
those.
her penis, unless we all are females with penises.
Yeah. At least not yet. Also joining us here tonight is a good buddy Neo, who's joining us here once again. Dilba Fett, he's also in the chat with us. You may see Johnson, you may see Cassie in the chat. Alex versus Evil is here tonight. He's still trying to figure out what he just saw at the very beginning of the show here. Zio is joining us. Drax the Clown is also here tonight. So our good class of regulars who are joining us. Yeah, no, that video, I saw that about an hour before we went live, and it was like one of those videos I just couldn't stop watching and like laughing at. So I was like, oh, this would be a good video to just I guess unconsensually toss in the eyes of you guys without warning. So I think it worked out pretty well. So yeah,
I thought it was some weird thing that Spencer did for fun. I don't know.
No.
I can confirm that this time it was not Spencer. So yeah, this time don't get too excited there. There may be a next time down the line. And for those of you who were trying to figure out earlier who Alexa Bliss is, this is Alexa Bliss.
You need like a side view because that you don't understand how big her beak is.
Oh yeah, well I mean she is Jewish.
I wouldn't touch that. I'm sorry.
Oh my.
Well, I mean, she is a 30-year-old woman who's into like Disney things, so I mean, that's probably a good enough reason to say no.
Well, there you go. It's illegal to have sex with retards.
Yep,
so
there you go. Stealing my chick. Yeah, hopefully, Spencer saw the beginning of the video. If he didn't, he should
Copyright
go back and
claim
check that right now. So yeah, we're here tonight. We got a lot of things to talk about. I'm just going to let you guys know here. If you guys are very tempered on let's call it spicy opinions, probably not the best show because we're going to get into a lot of topics here tonight that may rattle some feathers all across the board. So this is the perfect show to do it. But before we go in hot, let's actually start off with our good buddy Pete here because Pete, if you don't recall, had a interview with Frosk, former G4 Frosk. Like I said, I'm shocked too, and I was like, wait, did she go on your show? Like she clearly must have not known like who you are in order to agree with that interview. I just can't see how you met, but hey, you pulled it off, so I mean kudos to you. So there's that. But
I don't
congratulations on your poll, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, thank you. I have no idea why she agreed to it. It's kind of crazy, but yeah. We sat down. We sat down for a 2-hour interview. If she wasn't who she is, or she didn't have that name recognition, or she hadn't said what she said, I think I'd actually like her quite a bit, and I think she'd be able to fit in one of these boxes. Unfortunately, that's just probably not going to happen because apparently Frosk doesn't want to do any more of anything in the gaming space or be public. So,
hey, no complaints here.
If you don't want to be here, it's fine. Like I think she should have just did that in the first place instead of playing pretend all this time.
Yeah.
If I may quote Command Master Chief from G.I. Jane, then get the fuck out of here.
So
I mean, she's not going to be missed.
No. Well, that's the craziest thing. It was like the whole thing that happened last year was basically based on like a 3 to 5 minute segment, and then it was like maybe 5 tweets throughout the course of the year, and that was it. That's like what's fueled a whole year of outrage. And so getting to actually talk to the real person who she is an annoying lefty. She sometimes falls into a lot of that culture war stuff, but honestly, compared to a lot of people I've interacted with, she was way more reasonable than I ever expected.
I think you did a really good job with the interview too. You were listening very intently in the segments that I watched, and it was very nice. I'm sure she was very happy to have somebody that she could talk to like that,
Yeah. No. I think there's probably something all of us can relate to is people who don't totally fit into either side. And I think that's kind of part of her problem was she had made everyone on the right obviously mad. And then she had alienated her friends on the left because she believes crazy things like if you review a video game, you should have played it. And if you review a video game, you should try to play it at the intended difficulty, which that makes her radical to some sectors of the gaming press like Kotaku. So.
What's the intended difficulty?
Let's not call Kotaku the gaming press. Let's just.
They're one of the few. They're one of the few left standing now. We just had all these closures, and Kotaku somehow they remain. When everything is gone, it'll just be Kotaku.
Yep. Kotaku and Impact Wrestling are the two cockroaches that just won't die. So, but yeah,
I gotta say this too. I'm even more convinced that these publishers have not learned anything from Gamergate. I swear.
No, they still talk about Gamergate 10 years. Gamergate wasn't even that big of a thing when it happened, and they still talk about it like if it was like a 9/11 level event to some of these people.
No,
it's
but
really.
Well, the thing is, though, the whole thing with Gamergate was about gaming journalism, the corruption of gaming journalism being exposed, and you see all these people talk about it constantly. It's like you really didn't learn anything from it. You didn't learn the whole thing stemmed from corruption in gaming journalism, and you're gonna use Gamergate as an attack on someone. It's like, no, that's not the point.
Hey, there's still people out there that believe that Hitler and Stalin didn't have an alliance during World War II. So some people are never going to learn their lesson. But let's get to the story here. Former
I'm pretty
X-Play
sure
host.
There's fan fiction out there that were Stalin and Hitler
Yeah. Former X-Play host Frost says infamous sexism in gaming rant partly inspired by her experience at G4. She said, I can't believe more stuff hasn't come out. So we all pretty much know the story at this point. Was it last year, a little over a year ago? G4 had relaunched after about almost 10 years, pretty much dead. They thought they were going to give it another go. Didn't exactly work out the way that they planned, and only a couple of months into the reboot, this thing happened where she went on the whole rant about sexism in gaming because people were saying that she wasn't as hot as Olivia Munn and Morgan Webb, so she took personal offense to that. It led to a thing that just snowballed throughout the course of the entire year where people were parroting this whole thing. They were basically mocking Frost. Internally, they were trying to do things behind the scenes to make it seem like she wasn't being directly punished by the events that took place. But one way or another, G4 died for a second time less than a year after the reboot. Frost then announced that she's going to be done with the gaming industry altogether. And our good buddy Pete here did do an interview for his podcast, which I'll give you guys a link to it as well, just in case you guys want to look at it.
For warning, it is ridiculously long.
I mean, it's Frost, so I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. That's I heard from a lot of people are like, I love you, Pete, but I just can't stand the sound of her voice.
Yeah,
Frost
you have
is
to be
synonymous
really
with
committed to eat up this one here.
Sometimes it helps if you turn off the sound and use the closed captioning, like if you want some advice.
Smart.
If you want to listen to it with the mute button, yeah, good luck with that one. I don't know how.
So that's what it's like to be deaf.
The joy.
I mean, well, actually, I've had viewers say that kind of thing to me, but honestly, it's so crazy and Spencer did such a great job in this write-up because it's like I know everyone in the universe kind of seems to hate her right now, and my YouTube video, which is like a ratio for like every one positive comment or like, there's like 4 negatives, so it's like I have like 2.3 thousand dislikes on that video alone right now. So very stigmatized, obviously. But the amount of stuff she fed, and maybe you guys will say, well, this is just her attacking the people that betrayed her. Whatever the reason is, what she reveals to us about how Comcast Spectacor operated, it's just flabbergasting. It's just such incompetence, such corruption. It's worse than probably any of us would have predicted. And I think we could have imagined something pretty bad.
And we'll get to that one here. I'm going to get to that point too. But when I hear that, I hear, Comcast treated us terribly. It's like, yeah, did you guys not hear how the whole G4 Tech TV merger happened? Like, people were telling you guys 15 years ago how Comcast operates. So I don't know. Maybe people just weren't paying that much attention. But you did ask her what was happening to Frost. You were in a position where you felt like you needed to, what this needed to be said, talking about the infamous rant. Frost revealed that the first embers of her rant were sparked by experiences trying to pay attention to everything that was happening online around G4 during the period of time fairly early on into its announcement. She says, over the months leading up to it, everywhere I looked, if I was on YouTube or Reddit or Twitch, every platform, people were talking about how much they used to masturbate to Morgan Webb. She says that I was like, this is so strange that on social media, people are making all of these crude, not even jokes, just really crude statements. This is what is happening. I hear Rob laughing in the background. But this is happening where we missed the barrier to the decision making to think something, to type it out, to hit enter and send. So she's obviously talking about the comments. This is leading up to before her statement, obviously. She said that what boiled her over was sort of a New Year's gripes thing. She said, so we'd be like, this thing really annoyed me in the new year. Let's start off fresh and do a New Year's rant. She said, originally I was supposed to talk about Red Dead Redemption 2 online. I was going to blast Rockstar. That was even before they decided to leave the game online to die. He says, however, during rehearsals where our on-screen team says you want to keep your rants secretive, or do you want to record them or do them, everyone went on a lunch break where Frost rants truly began to take form. I will go to lunch. I'm sitting there with a network producer, director, and executive producer. I don't remember why it was brought up, but the discussion at the table really kind of turned into our different experiences as women in the industry, and also having that Pacific studio having really sexist and gross experiences. I was like, why is this so prevalent in our industry today? So It was so bizarre. I worked in 4 different roles at Riot offices. Obviously, Riot went through a massive lawsuit about gender discrimination, but that's like the shit that I've seen. Working 10 years in esports, I thought that mainstream broadcasting would be better. She thought that esports was like this Wild West where you wouldn't, where you don't have to where you don't have to be a lot of people with white collar business experience. But that was going to get a better G4. These issues reportedly only got so much worse going into G4, specifically that studio. I can't believe more stuff has not come out. So we'll pause there for a second, and Pete, you can give us a little bit of insight here. But one thing that I've noticed, especially with the reboot, is that they really tried to capitalize on the 2 shows that were really the only 2 successful things they had on that property, which was G4 and Attack of the Show. And even when you look back on it on reflection, they weren't really that successful as shows themselves. They were just successful on the G4 platform. And they tried to rekindle that same magic, but obviously by doing some different variations. I know back in years past, they wanted to do more of a news magazine type of show rather than just quirky video game reviews. If you guys watched our retro review of G4, when G4 first started, it was just quirky video game reviews that people thought were entertaining, and then they shifted to news magazine. So you obviously talked to her, you got in her head here. Did you get any kind of sense talking to her that maybe she was kind of in over her head going into this sphere of G4? I mean, she did claim back in the day that she used to be a fan of this and that she knew the property, but maybe she was expecting something totally different coming from, like I said, the esports thing over to G4 and television. What was kind of your perspective on that?
This is part of my assumption here, but it did feel like she had this expectation that of her bad experiences in esports, particularly, well, her last year, everyone is pretty familiar with when she made the claim about the LO members of the League of Legends team she was interested in, that they were targeted. But even before that, there were issues with Riot Games, who of course owns League of Legends and of course runs much of the esports. And then later there would be stuff coming out. They just lost a huge lawsuit for gender discrimination and sexual harassment. So she alluded to some of that, and that was kind of what fed into this stuff. But I think she assumed that was like, that's crazy town. That's not, these aren't the big wigs. These aren't the professional guys. Over here at G4, this is owned by Comcast. This is very respectable. They would know how to behave. And I think what she found out, and what any of us that have had any opportunity to work for a news or entertainment media company is, they're incompetent as heck. I mean, they really are. They really are a wreck. And unfortunately, you know, I feel bad for her, because I feel like if I was in that situation, I would be naive and I would assume what I was being told was how it is. You know how it is, even with your family, are like, these are the things we say inside the house and nowhere else. And unfortunately, Frosk made the mistake of saying the inside thing on the outside. And yeah, that didn't turn out very well for her.
Yeah, you know, I listened back to, if you remember, a guy called Martin Sargent. He used to be on Tech TV. He did Unscrew with Martin Sargent. He was part of that Tech TV G4 merger in 2004, 2005. And essentially what he confirmed, what a lot of people said of Comcast then, is that, look, the company Tech TV sold to Comcast, sold to NBC. And then the next thing you know, they took everyone who was in San Francisco, moved them to LA, and then got rid of all the layover staff in San Francisco. So everyone had just moved into LA, was there for about 9 months, and then all of a sudden they basically fired everyone who was there, with the exception of Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb, who came over with their video game show. But they cleared house with like everyone else. And he was saying then how, you know, incompetent a lot of the staff were working with the Comcast group then. This is back in 2005, so you can only imagine that things haven't exactly gotten any better in the course of 15, 16 years. But yeah, I mean, I've heard these stories about, you know, the way that Comcast does business, and I think a lot of people kind of get into that headset of, oh, well, this is a big media corporation, things are going to be much more professional here. But I look at it as more, when it comes to especially modern corporations now, it's so overbloated and so, you know, I guess the way to say is that G4 is not really a high priority for them. If you look at everything that's under the Comcast umbrella, G4 is probably so low on the totem pole that they just put a bunch of guys who they think can can at least keep the brand afloat rather than actually try to succeed with it, because like I said, who cares at that level? Do you get a feeling that maybe it was the corporatization structure of G4 that had a lot to do with her unhappiness and just the downfall of the network, essentially?
Oh yeah, no. Before this is what killed G4. This was the fatal toxin. Frosk is the one that pushed it over the edge, but she wasn't the one that put it next to the cliff. It was because it was too many layers. G4 was the subsidiary of a subsidiary. It was basically the plaything of the son of the CEO of Comcast. So Tucker Roberts, who, as far as, and I was surprised when I talked to Frosk about why this company was started or what was the motive here. And she said that what they believe inside the company is what we've heard on the outside, which is that Tucker Roberts had a really big thing for Olivia Munn, and they dated for a while and they broke up, and then he kept G4. You know, it's like you got a divorce. Well, I keep the dog. And for whatever reason, decided to go forward with this plan. But it was a wreck. I mean, she talks like very basic things. Like, that's why people who say I couldn't listen to Frosk in a million years. She could never be sympathetic. I hate her. I hate what she did. I would encourage you to try to listen, because I think she has managed to explain the situation where even with someone so polarizing that brings up so much hard feelings, that you can feel sorry for her. She talks about, for example, she was hired to do their esports, but it turns out the people inside the company, many of the people who had been hired for middle management, didn't like esports. When she wanted to do it, they said, okay, we'll do an esports show. So she said, let's do specific games. So we could do because people that are into esports, they say that generally in media, but really you're just into a certain game or games. Yeah. So they're like, no, you have to do this weird news show meets comedy channel variety show, which was weird because no one on the team had any comedy experience. And it's just it's not like you can just magically create that. But she's like, fine, we'll do the news show. And she says she assumed, I mean, how crazy is this, that for the esports news show, she would be allowed to use clips from esports. No, that was not. No, they said no way.
There's
a
little thing called rights fees, and no, it's not.
That's the kind of thing that they were up against. It was just sheer incompetency. You ask it, they were probably doing it wrong.
Yeah, and so she talks about at one point how, initially when she did the whole rant that, the people were behind it, it was being promoted on the social media accounts and on the YouTube account. So they were behind everything that she said at the time, but I don't think her or anyone at Comcast realized just how big of a backlash her statement and her whole rant was going to have on the network, because a lot of people, keep in mind, a lot of people, when they saw her rant viral on Twitter, most people didn't even know G4 was even back. That's how bad it was. Her rant alerted a lot of people wait, you guys brought back G4? When did this happen? It's and they found out a few weeks ago that this thing came about, and everyone was like, okay, so you want me to not watch something I wasn't watching to begin with? And then that kind of that ball of negativity just grew and grew and grew to the point where no one could control where it was going next. Now, I know I've personally said many times before, it's not a smart idea on any level to alienate your franchise or alienate your fan base, considering the fact that you're already a network who was canceled almost 10 years ago due to low viewership to begin with. So I don't understand why you would even go on any kind of rant like that could be viewed as divisive when you're already in an uphill battle trying to get fans. But maybe they thought differently at the time. Is that what you got with an interview?
So Frosk's explanation for this, and I'm not sure I 100% buy that, but I mostly buy it, was that she had been asked to put together, another throwaway cruise. Remember, she was doing 5 different platforms, basically. It's kind of like the term we might use. So you had to do cable, satellite, she had to do Twitch, YouTube, and then they would add one more digital, and then they do something for Roku. So they ended up doing 6 different things, and they had to create content. So one team might have 8 people, and for one of these platforms, they might have to do 15 hours of content a week. That's a lot of content. So and they were just making as much content as they could possibly churn out that they could get away with. And this was going to be just another throwaway segment. Oh, you want us to do yet another weird thing? Fine, we'll go and do it. And it was a bad idea. We all probably have some odd belief, getting rid of the 19th Amendment, which we might believe and some other people believe, but it's not something you say out loud because no one is that interested. And unfortunately, that's kind of what they encouraged. And Frost's explanation is when she was asked to do this, she was asked first to do Red Dead Redemption, but she wanted to change it. So according to her, they let her change it, and that was okay because it was kind of in line with what some of the others were doing, like Gerard had planned. She had put it out. It was for her 2,000 Twitch audience, and that was it. What had happened was marketing had taken it, and they had prettied it up in post-production, and then they had shot it out. And the people that worked in middle management were mostly people from Linear. These are people who learned experience, especially with wrestling. That's why there was that WWE connection, was because that's where they got so many of the executives. These were old style cable television people, and they thought literally any publicity is good publicity. We just need to shoot this thing to become as viral as possible. It doesn't matter if all of that is because people are mad. That will somehow then, it's like The Simpsons. It's like step 1, make people really, really mad. Step 2, question mark. Step 3, everyone loves G4 TV. And no, did not work out like they had intended.
So last thing on this one is that, it seems like the crux of this entire, I guess, Frost's kind of downfall with G4, everything kind of revolved back to like Morgan Webb. Because I think back at one point, she even said that like a producer for Attack of the Show even said that the reason why they thought that X-Play was failing because they don't have somebody attractive like Morgan Webb. Now, Morgan Webb as a personality has kind of like just faded away into the distance for the last like few years. Like she's not active. She's not on Twitter like Adam is, like just yelling at like 30 people a day and blocking the entire world. Like she's kind of just laid low, and surprisingly she says absolutely nothing about this entire situation, even when it was blowing up and her name was being tossed around here. So I find it like, did you ever feel like from the sense that maybe there was just a little bit of jealousy that she was the one who was brought in essentially to replace Morgan Webb's shoes, and she knew that maybe internally that because of the reaction from the fan base, the reaction from the producers, that they just didn't see her as that person, that maybe led to a lot of the conflict there?
Maybe, possibly. I mean, working in esports as long as she does, I know her fashion, how she looked, how she appeared was very important to her, both professionally, I think personally. So yeah, it is possible that could have been a factor, part of it. Maybe not consciously, but subconsciously. I think part of the problem was, as Adam Sessler pointed out, was they had really kind of, people at Comcast Spectacor thought this old branding, these old connections, the dead YouTube channel, the dead Instagram, Facebook, those were positives. But what they didn't understand is that came with very heavy baggage and very high expectations. And so for the people that actually still cared about X-Play, like myself, remember it and loved it back in its heyday, 2000, it's like 2004 to 2006 was like some of the best on that. And when you bring this back and it's so anti to the spirit of that was, that turns off, of course, viewers, but it also makes it hard for the creators because you are not just creating for your bosses and trying to meet their crazy demands. You're also trying to compete against this ghost of this thing that once was. Now, I think that thing was awesome, but it was just one more hurdle that they would have to try to get over. If that makes sense.
All right, and as we introduce Rick, don't pay any attention to Rick. We'll get to him later. But final question here is that
yeah.
So when it comes to Frost, I think she at one point she stated that if she could have gone back, she probably would have said, hey, just don't clip this thing. Maybe don't have to be as viral as a moment as it was. Do you get any feeling that at least the way that it all went out, that there was any kind of like genuine regret for her for the way that this whole thing played out? Or do you think that she's still kind of like holding on to the kind of bitterness of it was really the people around me, not myself?
Yeah, this might be ink blots because I'm sure if someone see the clips and they'll read the tone or how she says it, and they'll read into how they feel if she's really regretful. What I can tell you is there are many points in the interview. Most of them did get in the interview, a few didn't, where she apologized, like deeply apologized. She doesn't seem as bothered that she offended viewers. Okay, so I don't think she feels bad that she made people mad. She does feel terribly that this hurt her coworkers. And when she did her eyes, she has borderline personality disorder, and so does my dad and sister. And sometimes with that, it's kind of similar to bipolars, that they don't always quite understand how their actions and what they're communicating out reverberates to other people. And I think it was one of those moments for her, for like the lizard tweet, I survived. In her head, she thought, ha, I'm making fun of the haters and management. To everyone else, said, "Oh, Frosk is making fun of her fired coworkers," and she legitimately does feel terrible that she hurt these people, and she does recognize that what she said did tremendous damage. Now, is she as sorrowful as maybe you or I might think she is? Was she still holding a grudge? That's possible, but I mean, at that point, that's kind of between her and her God. As far as I can tell, at least talking to me, she has at least as much regret as I think any of us probably would in a very difficult situation where you feel like you got the brunt of the blame when you were told to do the job by your boss. You do the thing, and instead of congratulating you, they push you to the side. Whether you're on the left or the right, whether you're in a good company or bad company, that sucks.
Yeah, and like I said, for you guys listening to this video in the chat, I put the link to the Bounding article, which has the full interview in that article as well. So if you guys want to listen to Pete's full interview with Frosk and get all the content, you guys can go there.
Yeah, my melodious tenor voice.
Yes.
Well, I was actually going to say,
you only have the second
Pete has
most
a good
annoying voice in that video, so that's.
It seems to me that Comcast was trying to make Frosk like the biggest heel, because you said there was WWE or former WWE people involved, so it seems like they're trying to make her like the queen of the heels.
But don't you need charisma for that? Like, don't you need to have some kind of a?
Apparently you don't need charisma in wrestling today. So I mean, there's that.
I know, but, and
maybe these are the same people that keep trying to hoist Dave Bautista onto us. So
no, I think it's more Roman Reigns than Dave Bautista.
Well, it's a little of both, but
well, the problem
Bautista has more personality than Roman Reigns.
The problem with running like a network or anything in that regard is like WWE, does with its wrestling, its fake characters, the heel versus the babyface, is that there's not many other places to go to for that kind of entertainment in wrestling. Whereas if you're on some bullshit in regards to like an X-Play or something like that, you can go watch a million different YouTubers that deal in the same sort of situation. So like to have that mindset going into like that, unless it's in like I don't know, like maybe if they had like a game show, for example, like one of those old school game shows as like a segment for, whatever. And then like maybe if they played it like this is like the heel babyface and that, like you can't direct that hatred towards a fan base when you're trying to compete with, YouTubers and you're using an outdated format. Like that just was a failure concept.
I will say this, and I said this many times over the last few months. You guys heard me say it. This thing was DOA even before the whole Frost thing happened, because say that rant never happened and we never had that whole fallout. There were so many things working against G4. They were trying to do, like I said, they were trying to bring back like a cable format for a show that died almost 10 years ago due to low viewership. You didn't have an audience for this 10 years ago when you tried it, and you didn't even address the elephant in the room of who the hell is going to watch this. And as we found out, no one did, because even G4 was like the lowest rated out of all the cable networks. They only averaged like 1,000 viewers on the Nielsen ratings. So that's how bad this whole thing was, and that wouldn't have improved even if Frost hadn't done that rant at all. So
my thing is, why did they even bother going that far as to like why did you cast your web out in so many different places? Like they should have started out in a very niche format, and if they gain traction, slowly build from there. It's just they set off to do all this stuff, and it just, in the grand scheme of things, it was a failure just on concept alone because they stretched themselves too thin from the very jump.
It could also just been the fact that, hey, it's a big giant corporation's money, so I mean, who cares? Just put something together there, and if it fails, hey, it's not my money, right?
No, to Cassie's good observation there. This is something Frosk noticed herself too. She didn't quite understand why they thought that they would. It felt like to the executives, they didn't understand how esports work, how that community worked. They didn't understand how YouTube worked. They don't understand really how the internet works. These are like very basic things you should know how to do in our current media age. But so it felt like, they kind of felt like this would be instant successful and everyone would get rich. And there was, this is kind of where I commend Frosk some, because she is on record. We only have 2 people that worked in that company that have come out on the record to speak what happened there. And one of the things that she points out that as a concern was budgets would go missing, or people would spend their budgets that were for a few years and they would be gone in a season. And so there is a likelihood that there is actually some pretty bad shenanigans where some members of middle management decide when they made the marketing deal, they chose their buddy that had that one Instagram advertising company. Yeah. And I'm sure that
in other words, somebody may or may not be cooking the books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sounds like when you look at just something that's, doomed from the start. I mean, these companies generally, they're smarter than they look. When you set out to do something that's clearly a failure, typically there's maybe embezzlement involved, some sort of backroom wash job involved.
I swear this happens in the movies way more than anybody wants to talk about, because the whole like creative accounting practices. It's like, or even take the plot of The Producers. Trying to create something that will be a guaranteed flop, and it's like you sort of start to question why. But look, I'll just say this.
Weird.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I totally agree with you. There were just weird things. Like, there's not really a good explanation as to why. Why did they buy as big an architecture firm to come and build that building? Why did they leave so much of that space that they had invested in, including rooms with, a room full of gaming PCs, and they basically let no one touch them? There are all kinds of weird stuff where incompetency is a very possible explanation, but you also have to ask, okay, maybe is it something else?
Yeah, I noticed, like, in modern day, like, a common practice is, like,
Sorry,
nefariousness.
Oh, you're good. No, I was pretty much done.
Yeah, like, in modern day, I just noticed how, like, nefariousness is covered up by panning ignorance. Like, you pretend to be absolutely ignorant and stupid, and meanwhile, there's clearly malintention, and people just go for it every time. So it's just like, at this point, people want to be stupid, and people want to pretend to be stupid, and this is the world that we have.
Wait, are we talking about G4 or the Grammys?
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say it sounds like a lot like Solyndra, to be honest.
I just think I heard I think I heard Cassie's Puerto Rican come out when she said stupid. That's pretty good. So.
Well, she desperately needs to get it back. She's lost a lot of it by her own admission. So, it's really coming back there. But I want to hop over to this next topic here because, look, this is a topic. I know, Rick, you're still there. You can continue to sit this one out for a little bit more because you probably don't know what's going on here either. But everyone knows about this Eliza Bleu story, and there's a reason why I've chosen not to cover it for the last few weeks. In my honest opinion, I just don't care. That's on it because this whole thing started over like a World Star Hip Hop video that a couple people either took like clips or screenshots of to kind of like make fun of the whole thing. The next thing you know, all of their content started getting copyright claim, whether it was on YouTube or Twitter and Facebook, and it just snowballed into this whole thing where it was like Brittany Venti and the quartering got involved, and they started to fight this whole war with Elon Musk and Twitter and all the censorship and whatnot. Then somehow Tim Pool got wrapped into this, and then it all became all about Tim Pool versus the quartering, and now they're blocking each other and yelling about each other online. It's like, I still don't know what the hell any of this has to do with like anything. Like the video was like some kind of like shitty hip hop thing where it wasn't even her song, by the way, so I don't even know how she's the one copyright claiming it. She's using somebody else's song to begin with. But yeah, now it snowballed into this massive battle of the culture war where it's like, if you're not following this story, you're not covering this story on the right, then you're part of the suppression. It's like, what there's no story. What is the story of this thing? Like, I don't know. Am I not seeing something? Orange, I'm gonna let you start off with this one here. What am I missing about this Eliza Bleu story that I shouldn't care about? Because I clearly don't at the moment, but maybe I'm in the wrong here. So explain this one to me.
Not a fucking thing, to be honest. Apparently this woman was sex trafficked, and apparently her life went off the rails. And then she cut her hair to make herself look like Megan Rapinoe. She got into a music video. And then people started saying, well, maybe her story might be false about her being trafficked. And apparently she didn't like that. She must be friends with somebody in Elon Musk's inner circle. And she got people like the quartering and other people kicked off of Twitter. Now, the quartering is good people. I watch his stuff. I think his stuff is pretty good. I don't think he deserves to be censored, and I don't think anybody deserves to be censored. I'm censored on Twitter very heavily. But I do not think that a person giving their opinion should be censored. As for the crossover to Tim Pool versus the quartering, I just saw a video of Tim Pool basically allowing his ego to run wild, and that is an incredible turnoff for me when a person or any channel, YouTube or otherwise, allows their egos to go unchecked for the amount of time that they did.
Yeah.
And honestly, I've always thought that Tim Pool has been a bit of an egomaniac. But when it comes to this whole Eliza Bleu situation, I am right there with you. I do not give a flying fuck about this war between her and the bigger YouTube channels. Most of them are egomaniacs. The only ones that I do follow are the ones that aren't egomaniacs. It's sad what happened to the quartering and to anybody else who has been or who is currently being sued or who is currently in a war with this Eliza Bleu character. But I'm sorry, you fucked around, you found out, you apparently didn't realize that she had connections with people close to Elon Musk that can get your asses kicked off of Twitter for no fucking reason at all. Now, that should raise a red flag to anybody on Twitter, because it seems that Elon Musk is adopting the previous practice that Twitter's previous owners indeed practiced when it came to anybody with a dissenting opinion that they didn't like. They would be kicked off. They would be removed. They would be suppressed. Well, congratulations, Elon. You said you wanted a free speech platform. Why the fuck are you allowing these people to be kicked off? They didn't break any terms of service. And I do hope that if anybody does decide to countersue, they should also launch a suit against Twitter for going against its mission statement. Not to mention, also, they should think about going after Twitter for violating their First Amendment rights, which apparently Elon Musk does value. You can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it too in this situation. But as for Eliza Bleu, I don't care who the fuck you are. You look like Megan Rapinoe, and I absolutely despise that woman. And honestly, if you were sex trafficked, my sympathies. But if you were using that to gain clout and to gain any sort of notoriety, and you are indeed faking it, you are no better than a false rape accuser. And those kind of people, I absolutely hold in the lowest regard. You are lower than scum. Those are my thoughts on this.
Does anyone else have any thoughts on this story? Go ahead, Cassie.
I think that, the general topic in regards to this woman, personally, I think it's disgusting if she lied all this time, but to me, that's not really the important takeaway that I took from this. I've been very vaguely listening in on this, but I've been paying attention to how people are moving in regards to this story. And it's shown that a lot of people that claim to be about the things that they are in practice really aren't. So
Definitely.
Especially in regards to Elon Musk, I liked a lot of things that he was saying. I chose not to subscribe to Twitter Blue for a little while because I wanted to see if he was really about the shit that he was saying. Now, if he was, I would end up being a Twitter Blue subscriber because I want to support the concept of a free speech, free open platform within reason, of course. But to me, the way that Twitter has handled this situation has proven that pretty much whatever he said is just all talk. It's all, Twitter for him is a business at this point. So I have no interest in becoming a Twitter Blue user. Twitter is just a place for me to shovel my bullshit for elsewhere.
I mean, I considered getting the Twitter Blue for like just 1 month just to make people upset, but it's like even I don't have the time and the money to commit to just that nonsense right now.
Yeah, so it's just like, look, if you're the person, because it's like this is a virtuous act in modern day in a world full of censorship, full of people trying to silence others. Like, this is a highly virtuous thing to say, I'm going to let this platform be free and open for discussion, no matter what the discussion is, as long as there is no directed violence. To me, that's a truly virtuous thing in modern day. If you're about that shit, I want to support you. If you're not, which Elon Musk has proven he's not, I don't want to support you. So, now I have to move accordingly, given what I know now. But, I mean, in regards to, Temple, yeah, I definitely took notes on him as well. I don't really trust the dude.
Pretty much everyone, like all the major YouTube channels, all shitting on Tim Pool right now, and I've never been a fan of Tim Pool. Like, his content just never appealed to me, even like back in the day. Like, now it's not my thing. I'm not really that big of a fan of people like Brittany Venti, either. Like, a lot of people involved with this whole thing I don't generally care for. I know Yellow Flash. I know Yellow Flash is pretty cool, and I know he got kind of caught up in this one directly as well. But outside of that, it's like, look, guys, you can all fight for as much as I care about this whole issue right now. I mean, look,
they decided to get into this thing with her. That's something that should be clarified. They made the conscious decision to call this girl out with the whole thing. I do.
Which they have every right to do under the idea of their First Amendment, their
and yes, that is indeed a First Amendment
right
thing.
Or not. It's sort of the principle of free speech. So if you're going to have a platform dedicated to those principles, you better back them up and not be a fucking cocksucking asshole and undercut your users. I think that's probably a pretty important thing to live by. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, so Elon Musk is a hypocrite and he's full of shit. So like every other rich guy, or you know what I mean, somebody who doesn't play by the same rules that the rest of us do. So it's just a confirmation that these people are fake, and that's okay. We can move on. I think it's funny personally. I've been following this longer than anybody.
Yeah, you have. You introduced it to us.
Because half of ROTC, half of Revenge of the Sith, this guy named Mersh, he called bullshit on Eliza Blue's thing. Like, oh, I lost my cat Carl in this bad snowstorm in Canada. And he was like, there's something about this bitch that just doesn't sit right with me. And that was the start of it. That was the start of it. And so I've been following it all along, and I'm like, I can't believe it's gotten to this point. And look, you guys are right for the most part. Who gives a shit about Eliza Bleu? It's the larger implications of the hypocrisy of what she's been allowed to get away with. That's kind of more telling and more interesting in my book. But
I did find it, just real quick, I did find it very interesting that, Elon Musk came out today and had the audacity to do the whole Sam Smith Grammy thing when he called it satanic. It's like, dude, you literally did a Baphomet costume on Halloween 3 months ago, and now you're trying to call out something for being satanic. It's like, there's no self-awareness here whatsoever, which is absolutely hilarious to me. But go ahead, Cassie.
When it comes to Tim Pool, I used to watch him. Same thing with the Quartering. I used to watch him. I don't really pay attention to him anymore. The Quartering I stopped watching a lot longer ago than Tim Pool. But Venti, I can't speak for her. Don't really watch anything she's got to do with whatever. But the one thing that I totally disagree with Orange on is that the reason why I stopped fucking with the Quartering is because he's always been a fucking clout chasing cunt. He's so, and it's so obvious. And it's you have over 1 million subscribers now. Why are you still on this clout chase grind? It's bro, just collect your money. Stop being the first one to whore yourself out the way that he chooses to do all the time. But I just find it hilarious. I couldn't help but snicker. And it's not that I find that agreeable. Yes, and it's not that I think that what happened to him is a good thing. It's not. I'm against all forms of censorship, but I just find it hilarious that he was whoring himself out to Elon Musk when Elon Musk was saying, yeah, I actually need someone to run this ship for me. And he was like, please, Elon, I will let you butt fuck me, but please let me be the one to run this. I will do anything just for
remember
his
how angry
clapped.
Remember
with this fucking bitch.
Do you remember how angry the quartering got when Elon first started like the whole Twitter process, and he was talking to Ian Miles Chung and not him, and I saw him just like absolutely melting down on Twitter that he was talking to somebody.
Ian Miles Chung is just as much of a grifter as the quartering is. I'm not gonna lie.
Look, they
like
all
10
are.
times, like
They are
100
both
times.
grifters.
Look,
All of these bigger fucking names are a bunch of fucking hypocrites, liars, and idiots. They're
all of these guys
egomaniacs.
All these guys are trying to protect the little pot of money that they have, so they don't have to go back and work regular jobs again. And look, I get it. I mean, I'm not saying like respect the hustle, but let's not try to be more than what we are there. I think that's all I'm saying.
I'm going to get a little in trouble here because I feel like I'm defending everyone that everyone hates today. I actually like Jeremy the quartering. Yes, he is a showman, but he is a principled showman to a point than many are. I know him a little bit. I know some of his employees. He treats them very well. And I couldn't say that, when I used to work in more traditional conservative media. So credit to him for that. I can't speak really to any of the other stuff. Eliza Bleu, here's the problem. Eliza Bleu, the story, I used to be like Jacob's Society, sorry. And I was the same way. I was like, why does this story matter? This is just e-drama. Please go away. But it does illustrate two very important points. One, it shows how there is a weakness in the media on the right, that while the left has a problem where they have tried to have hierarchies based on status, the right has made one that's very much about popularity. And while most people say, okay, that's good, that's better, in many ways it is. However, that you put yourself in a situation where people become afraid sometimes to do the unpopular thing. And sometimes the unpopular thing is what needs to happen. And that's, I think, was kind of what we're seeing with people like Tim Pool right now, where he could have zigged, but he instead zagged. The other thing, and this is maybe more personal to me, is that Eliza Bleu has done tremendous damage to people who work in advocacy, not just sexual trafficking, trying to help stop that, but advocacy of all forms, because this is kind of the same problem the Me Too movement has. When you overcharge things, when you make everything a fight, when you call everyone that has minor disagreements a liar, that tells people when they meet the next person, say, I'm an advocate of so-and-so. Oh, shut up. You're just another one of those liars, just like Eliza Bleu. And I know people are not that dumb. Well, unfortunately, a number of people are that dumb. And that's kind of how it goes. And her story may be true. I mean, reality is weird. She could be a liar on almost everything, and her trafficking story is for the most part true. That is a total and real possibility. However, that she has used this platform to try to control people and to censor things and has gone to this fight. Well, there are many things I like about Eliza. It has done tremendous damage to the things that she was working towards. And whatever her intention was, and maybe this is kind of like with the Frosk stuff, you kind of have to separate that out and say, what's the consequence of this? And it's a lot of damage. It's more than e-drama. It's hollowing out these really difficult areas. There's the advocacy, the grosser it is, the less people want to talk about or really deal with it. Like we'll give like service announcements. No one actually wants to go on the ground and do the necessary work. I remember when I started getting deep into disability advocacy, and we were just trying to get people who are suicidal to make sure they got mental health wellness checks. Yeah. And there are a ton of people who say, oh, you shouldn't commit suicide. That's bad. But no one actually wants to pick up the phone. And you need those people. You need the people who are willing to make the call. And Eliza Bleu has just made their job that much harder. And it really does get me mad when I think about, because she has, for whatever her intentions was, it seems like she has put herself above the good work that she was trying to do. And now we are all going to have to live in that world she's helped creating.
Yeah, you put it perfectly. Rick, let me ask you a question. Are you there? I can't see your face.
I am here.
Okay, then. So I'm pretty sure you don't know anything about the Eliza Bleu story whatsoever, but I did want to let you know of a little story here. Apparently, All Elite Wrestling, which is the B-tier wrestling organization, is in El Paso this week. And according to this little news tidbit right here, let me see if I get this one correct. The El Paso County government has now proclaimed the resolution naming Monday, February 6, 2023, All Elite Wrestling Day in El Paso, Texas. And I have the picture here to prove it. Do you know any of these people who are in this picture? Is this do you know any of these people personally? Because this seems pretty local, so I have no idea.
Unfortunately, I do know a few.
Unfortunately.
If you go
Very
starting
diverse.
from well, if you start from the right, that is our county judge, Ricardo
here.
Samaniego.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
let's see if I can zoom in a little
Yeah,
bigger here.
that is the actual county judge, and I think he just testified in Congress saying that there is no problem with migrants coming over.
That's
But
nice.
to be perfectly fair, I cannot say because that is just hearsay. The lady that is my commissioner, Ileana Olguin.
Mm-hmm.
So I do know who she is.
Yeah,
Scroll.
she looks like a ghoul.
That man with the glasses.
Mhm.
That is another county commissioner, Carlos Leon. I have actually communicated with him on an issue that is about the poor maintenance of the county cemetery, which is where my aunt is buried, and he and his office did respond, so I give him credit for that.
He also looks like an emaciated Chuck Schumer.
He also was, I believe, the former police chief. Yes.
So, question mark, not exactly a dick. And then who are these three people? Like who
I
are these people?
I have absolutely no idea who. I'm surprised that they got that white guy there. I don't know who any of those other people are. I generally have no idea. I've just got more hung up on the fact that I'm not a fan of taking up county time to have declarations of this, that, or the other. I also am not particularly thrilled. Apparently, the city, not the county, but the city is going to spend about maybe $400,000 for not one but two monuments to the police chief that died recently, while still struggling to give city employees like myself even $1 pay raise because they don't have the money for it. But they're going to spend, I believe, $200,000 for a bust of the late police chief. And this is why I'm like at pushing 70% that I will run for for District 7, my district.
Well, if you run for office, you better stay off of this show because you're definitely not going to win. But speaking of morons who don't have their priorities in order, let's go over to our good buddies in the transgender community who are upset about the Harry Potter game. Was this Hogwarts Legacy? Is this the game that everyone's having a meltdown about right now?
My gosh.
I'm excited about it. I'm not even a Harry Potter
it's the
fan.
it topic.
Now, let me having a good laugh at this.
Let me get a little the disclaimer out there. I have never watched a single Harry Potter movie in my life, and I don't plan on watching Harry Potter in my life. I just don't care. I didn't read the books. I didn't watch the movies, so this is completely out of my wheelhouse whatsoever. But apparently, people in the trans community have completely turned on J.K. Rowling because she said a few years ago that she didn't want men to compete in the same spheres as women, and then they were all like, "Well, trans women are real women," and this whole thing has just like collapsed upon itself. So now here's a video game completely unrelated to J.K. Rowling, by the way, but because it is a Harry Potter video game, there's people who are actively been calling people to boycott this game. That there was some kind of list site that was going around here identifying streamers who chose to play it, and because they chose to play it, there was like a blacklist thing that was going on too. All because this what do they call it? A turf? Is that what they call white
turf.
women who? Yeah. Because she said that she doesn't want men and women to share competitive spaces where they shouldn't be competing whatsoever. And then
we forgot about the prisons as well.
I was going to say it extends to more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot to capture here. Then I think there was another YouTuber, this Noah J 456, who I've never heard of in my life, but he did this lecture about his stream saying that it's lies about men becoming women and women becoming men, that it's a human right. So apparently everything's a human right now, except for things that are actually like real. So he's just one of these woke streamers who got tired of the vitriol and the hatred of the people surrounding this community. So he decided to take a little break from playing the video game to lecture his audience about trans rights and other nonsense like that. I think he said that transgender and representation are human rights and presentation, period, end of story, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, people are having a very, very bad time right now about this video game that means absolutely nothing.
There's more. There's IGN's disclaimer, too. And there's another streamer that had a very interesting statement that got them very, very much ratioed.
Yeah, so they're like IGN, so all the like the video game, like I said, the journalists, quote unquote, were supposed to be reviewing this game, and some of them refused to review the game altogether, and all of them have to put these disclaimers out there. It's like, look, I know you guys hate J.K. Rowling, but don't let that interfere the rating of our games. Like, this is one of the dumbest outrage campaigns I've ever heard in my entire life. Yeah. Cassie, you've actually played this game so far, right? So I'm gonna let you take this story. What is your thoughts on the whole meltdown about this Hogwarts Legacy video game? Is it even good? Is it even decent?
Oh, it's like, so I'm not a Harry Potter fan. I played about 2.5 hours worth of the game, made my character a knockoff James Dean that's maybe has a little bit of Puerto Rican in him, judging by his skin complexion. But yes, the game is really good. I really love Western RPGs, and they really let you just be immersed in this world. So from that aspect, I really like it, even though I'm not a Harry Potter fan. Overall, the game plays really well. The mechanics are really good. I'm excited to go play this literally after the stream. So yeah, it's really good so far. But
Which house are you in, Kathy?
I picked Slytherin. So I went on the Wizarding World. I went to the Wizarding World website and took the test, and that's what I got. So I'm like, I'm just gonna go with what, because I don't know anything about any of the houses. So that was the most genuine pick, because I know nothing, and I took the test, and that's what I got. So that's what I went with.
Oh, that must be nice.
I know, I can't get the game. I'm too broke, but I've been a Potterhead since like the late 90s, early 2000s. I have all my books are first editions. Went to the midnight releases from book 4 through 7. And I wish I could afford the game.
Well, we know what to get Nerdigans for her birthday.
I'm a Harry Potter fan myself, but I can't play this game on a Chromebook, so it doesn't really matter if I get it or not.
I get you, but I can report. In regards to the website that's called "Have They Streamed That Wizarding Game?" which to me and to a lot of us personally, we deem that as a hit list for Twitch streamers that do choose to stream the game just because they want to play the game. I can report that this service has been suspended by its owner. So, like, realistically speaking, this person probably got harassed and said it's not worth it and took it down. Do I agree with the harassment? No, but in regards to them eventually doing the right thing, however they came to that conclusion, I appreciate them feeling as though maybe they perhaps made a mistake.
These psychopaths tried to create a hit list of streamers who played a fucking video game that they didn't like.
The funniest thing about it was that if you looked at the quote retweets, all the streamers actually advertised their Twitch channel saying that they were going to play the game. They took it as free advertisement. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
I thought it was kind of like a witch hunt list, which I thought was funny because it's about Harry Potter.
Here's the thing. Like, I very much was like, I was read the first 3 Harry Potter books in elementary school. Like, it was insane how popular those books were. Yeah. I did not make it past the 4th book. I never watched the movies. So I had no interest in this. But, like, I'll tell you what, if I had any kind of a gaming console, I'd probably buy it just to spite these fucking idiots. I will say this, like, I've only seen a little bit of the gameplay. It actually reminds me, and I'm sure I'm going to date myself here, it reminds me of those, like, Lord of the Rings movie adaptation video games, like The Two Towers and Return of the King on, like, PS2. When I was a teenager, those games were fun. I mean, there wasn't a lot of, much to them, but it was just kind of fun to do to kill a cave troll and stuff like that. So, like, I'm sure for people who love Harry Potter, I'm sure this is a game that's at least worth checking out.
Any other? Aragon's had. Oh, go ahead, Pete. Go ahead, Pete.
I would say it is hard to believe that this wasn't an excellent marketing strategy by the people at Warner Brothers Games. everything has played out so brilliantly for this game, its popularity. I to a lesser extent, but also important for people who are interested in the culture war. Well, it's not. I don't really take sides too much in that. You do have to pay attention why this is working, because the things like the trans people going after these streamers is it takes away the argument that we used to have that said, well, if you don't let everyone go to the bathrooms, then we're invading your space. We're stopping your freedom. We're going to you and we're going to stop you from doing something. But this is the reverse of that. These are people who are going up to people who are just playing video games in, in their garage or the extra bedroom, wherever they have their game set up. And then they're saying, no, bad person, you can't play. And even if you're like a diehard leftist, even if you're like a California liberal and you never think about, everyone's like, no, go away, leave us alone. And I think that is like, as someone who's more libertarian and just kind of likes the idea that upholding the core cultural principles of liberty, this is like, that's the way to handle it. If you are interested in actually persuading people and convincing people to go to your side, that's the way you do it. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to say this. If you didn't have this, the game was going to sell well regardless, because there's tons of Harry Potter fans.
But you know what's crazy though? It's like, that the game was going to sell well because of Harry Potter fans. But I know so many people in the gaming community, in the gaming space, that have never messed with Harry Potter at all, that said, I want this game. Because it's just in their face all the time. And the fact that there was all this controversy, like they ended up looking at more and more gameplay and you're like, this isn't just a good Harry Potter game. This looks like a really good game entirely. And the cherry on top is the fact that it's a really good game. Surrounding all this controversy, the fact that this campaign has gotten people to literally go out and buy a potential game of the year here.
This is reminiscent for me of what we talked about, I think, last week with the hockey player, where you had all these people objecting to him not wearing the Pride jersey, and his own jersey was the one that was selling out on the website and I guess at the stores. Here you have the same thing. People who are saying, no, this game is bad, even if it has apparently a transgender character in it. It's bad that you are playing it because you are somehow supporting J.K. Rowling, who I kept getting told that she was her generation's Tolkien. Sorry to bring that up again, but you're sticking it to her. Or you're supporting her. You're supporting her by playing this game, and thus you're supporting transphobia. That's how they see it. But what's the end result? No, people are flocking to this game. People who would not be interested in this game. Now, I'm someone who doesn't care for Harry Potter. I read the first book, and I had no interest in reading the second one. I did see all the movies, but that was more for a retrospective of Harry Potter than any genuine interest. And I was just endlessly puzzled why people love this and gravitated to it, but I'm not taking away from people's enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
It's, for me, the transgender character in this game is to spite Rowling. She doesn't care. I mean, she still owns the series. She's still a wealthy woman. She's not going to be bothered by it. But she sees this whole transgender issue not as in, I hate someone who thinks that you were born male but believe yourself to be female. She sees this as men are now entering women's spaces and are going to take away from women. I mean, there was that case where there was a transgender female who was in a female prison, and this person had been convicted of raping women, and she was very concerned that this individual would rape or attack biological women in the women's prison. And that was her concern. But she got very roundly criticized. But she sees it differently than the people who are objecting. If you are going to play this game, go ahead and play this game. It does not affect any transgender person to play this game, because it's not, you're not saying, oh, you're not validating my belief in what I believe I am. You're just playing a game. But for the transgender people who are objecting, they're taking it as a personal affront, as in, you don't believe that I'm a woman when I have a penis, or you don't believe that we are, that we are pregnant people, not pregnant women. We are pregnant people.
Yeah.
And by the way, El Paso did just declare abortion decriminalized here because it would affect pregnant people. That was their phrasing.
Oh my god! But the thing is, it's crazy how the mob works, the mob mentality. From everything I've seen from the developers of this game, they have openly said multiple times, even when being approached directly with J.K. Rowling's thoughts and viewpoints on transgender individuals, they refuse to bend a knee, but they've said we've made this game specifically for everyone, and they've proven it. If it be by the creative character, the fact that they do include a transgender individual, and they didn't go at it. What makes me completely fine with the transgender individual being in the game is the fact they didn't virtue signal about it. The individual's just there, and that's completely fine. There are transgender people in the world. I would have problem personally if they would have did that just so they can be like, oh, look at us, look at how good we are. We're so moralistic.
Right.
We did such a good thing. Give us a pat on the back. They didn't do that. They did absolutely the right thing in how they promoted the game. They knew that they had a target on their back, but they didn't cave. But they also didn't make enemies. The enemies were already made, and it's not even based upon their thoughts or their thought process entirely. And the gaming community's response to this vitriol was that we just want the game to be judged on its own merits. If it's a piece of shit, then let it be, a piece of shit. But if it's a good game, don't try and destroy it simply because of J.K. Rowling's viewpoints.
Yeah, isn't this a case of the Streisand effect, along with the hockey jersey, along with, I mean, there's certain things that this has happened with over the last 4 or 5 years. Joker comes to mind, where there's this negative, almost a pre-lash, almost like let's get out in front and make sure this thing fails. It's always when the thing itself is either well made with the fans in mind, an actual audience in mind, where it's like it doesn't fail because the thing that was being made was actually decent, was something that people wanted. And so this whole thing is very funny to me because it's like you tried to basically create a controversy, and you got more people to pay attention to it because of it. And now, instead of a boycott, you have even more sales coming in for this game.
It's funny how this whole thing is flipped. I'll let Orange get it in there in a second, but it's funny how this whole thing is flipped because the narrative used to be, especially like in the 80s and in the 90s, that it was the Christian right that were the moral busybodies that were saying that everything was the devil and that they were the crazy ones, right? And that was kind of like a big thing with the Harry Potter phenomenon 20 years ago when it all started. It was like there was people who didn't let their kids or watch like Harry Potter or read any of the books because they thought it was generally witchcraft. But we've seen here that in the course of one generation, this whole thing is flipped completely to the other side now. And now you have these people who used to be the biggest defenders and supporters of Harry Potter, who now don't want no one to associate with it whatsoever. Why? Because the creator dares say that men and women are not the same. And here's a little tweet here that I want to bring up here. Keep in mind, these are kind of the same people who unironically were slamming Christians for talking about the whole Smash Smith Grammy performance thing. And then this is what this person wrote. Same person, by the way. We asked our allies and the LGBTQIA friends not to support this game. You were given essays, links to why you should not support this game. If your trans friends start dissing themselves from you, you have no one to blame but yourselves. So these people I feel like with this whole community is that we've coddled them and protected them so much over the course of the last few years that they're now acting like they're the mafia now. Like they're the say of essentially what we were allowed to do, what we're allowed to say, and what the morality of our world is going to be like through this community. And because no one has checked them up to this point, they've been able to get away with this. This whole thing with the Harry Potter game, it feels like we're slowly reaching a breaking point where enough is going to have to be enough at some point. Like, if they haven't really gotten the backlash that they think they're getting in their heads, but they're pushing it to the point where they're going to get it, and they're not going to like it when they do get it. But Orange Chat, I'll let you wrap this one real quick.
I believe it was Rick, said that somebody made a claim that J.K. Rowling is this generation's Tolkien. They're going to have to amend that. It is absolutely not fucking true. This generation's Tolkien happens to be a woman named Karen Travis.
I would actually argue that this generation's Tolkien is still Tolkien.
Nerd. No, that is sarcasm.
There you
correct?
go.
You know that is sarcasm.
Orange would not disagree with that at all.
That is pure sarcasm.
Tolkien, Karen Travis, or to basically be like Tolkien, you got to do certain things. You got to write it perfectly well epic. You got to create an established history. You got to create at least 2 or 3 languages to go with your story. You got to also make sure that the story is cohesive with the greater world you're trying to tell. Karen Travis did that with her contributions to Star Wars, with the Mandalorians and whatnot. As far as J.K. Rowling, she wrote 7 books that were good yarn. However, where was the foreign languages that were besides actual foreign languages? So yeah, she's not a Tolkien, or she based her work off of Tolkien. I'll give her that, but she's not Tolkien, or she's not even worthy enough to be considered equal to Tolkien's left nut. As for Harry Potter itself, I'm a fan of Harry Potter, the stuff that she wrote. I like the books, sure. As for this game, if I could check it out, I would. However, I'll probably skip the freaking tavern because I have no interest in the transgender saying or giving her fucking life story or its life story or whatever the fucking life story. And all these people who are saying, oh, woe is me, this thing is transphobic. Motherfucker, there's a goddamn trans in it. So what the hell are y'all complaining about? Well, now they're actually starting to say something, well, that transgender is transphobic themselves. It's like, okay, wrap your head around that logic.
Well, the logic there would be, they're self-loathing. And
yeah, they are.
I get that. I get that.
Pete, there will be no hand raising on this podcast.
Please, Mr. Society, sir, Mr. S. Let me speak. Thanks.
All I'm saying, go ahead.
Okay, I largely agree with most of you guys. I think though what people have gone wrong is that the trans issue isn't the big story. The story is the death of games journalism, or at least the great shrinking of games journalism. A lot of people have said that this was going to be GG 2.0, and in some ways they're right, because it showcases kind of where the state of games journalism is. And it's a very sad state. The Washington Post just closed Launcher. Launcher was one of the most successful in the biz. They were closed because they were barely profitable. We've had major sites, major cutoffs. CNET is now hiring AI to replace the jobs formerly filled by new hires. The state of the industry, this opportunity, the trans thing, this was like the last hurrah for the gaming clique. And you guys all know who they are. They're everyone's favorite on Twitter, to show how much juice they had left. And what it shows is they don't have very much juice left at all. Like they pushed this narrative as hard as they could. They revved it up to 11, and it came out like a sad fart.
I think one last thing I'd like to add is that, in fact, the people attacking this game have lost. Today alone, like peak viewership on Twitch for Hogwarts Legacy, despite a hit list being created, was over 1,200,000 viewers. It was like the biggest fucking thing. It's eclipsed Twitch chat, the just chatting section at some points during the day. They have failed. But even so, even despite all these people saying, go fuck yourself, I'm doing what I want to do anyway, which I thoroughly commend. There have been individuals have privately confided in me that, yeah, they're afraid to stream the game. And they're streamers. They've been Twitch streamers longer than I've been doing YouTube. And they're like, yeah, I don't want my, I know transgender individuals in the community, and I don't know how they would take it when I just really want to play this game, because I think it's genuinely fun. And these are pro LGBTQ plus individuals. They have no malice towards that community at all, and they're just legitimately afraid to stream the game.
This was infuriating me just listening. Like I said, I don't even give a shit about Harry Potter. Like I really fucking don't. But we've gotten to the point where people are now afraid to play fucking video games. Like, are you serious? Like,
and this is why I came out as strongly as I did, because I said if we give up this ground where people can control what we fucking play, it's fucking over. It's over. That's why I came out so strongly against this shit, and I've spoken so strongly in favor of this game. That's why before I was kind of on the the fence of buying the game, because I'm not a Harry Potter fan, though I always thought the game always genuinely looked good every time they've shown it. But I wasn't a Harry Potter fan, so I'm like, I don't know if I can get into this. But I chose to buy it, and thankfully I did, because I am enjoying it thus far. And it's important to take a stand, because if we're not allowed to just simply play the video games that we want, then what the fuck is gaming?
Like, what are we doing here? Like, Hassan, who obviously I clearly don't like Hassan, but he even explained, like, on his video, it's like, yeah, a lot of people aren't playing the game on Twitch because they just don't want to deal with the hassle. They don't want to even deal with, getting complaints one way or another that they're playing the game, that they're not playing the game. Like, they just don't want to deal with it at all. There was some guy who I've never heard of in my life, but some Twitch streamer was getting bullied by his own chat for playing the game. And then apparently his girlfriend started crying. Like, what the fuck happened to us in general? Like, why are we allowing
people what the irony,
to have this much fucking power over it?
The true fucking irony of this is that they've expressed that they've gotten the game for free, a free review code, and that every donation that they would get from the live stream was going to go to a pro LGBTQ plus foundation. They've publicly said that, and still these malicious, deranged individuals still went out of their way to attack you.
I think it has to do with
this woman doesn't have anything to do with the game. It's not even like she wrote the game or directed.
Okay, but guys,
I think
what would Nazis do in this situation? What would the Nazis do? Would they literally compile a list of people playing a fucking video game and report them? Because that's seriously and I know I'm exaggerating using fucking Nazis, but it's like this is an authoritarian mindset. It's disease. It's fucked up.
It is about conformity. It is about forcing conformity on people who they don't even disagree with you. They just want to enjoy something. But by enjoying it, you are quote signaling that you're not an ally. You're not with them. You are supporting.
I'm not an ally. I'm not an ally.
That is how they are interpreting. And by the way, that tweet, I think allies should be IES instead of Y apostrophe S. Yeah. Because that's a possessive, not the plural. Sorry.
I want to go on Pro Wrestling Tees, and I want to create a T-shirt that says "I'm not your fucking ally," and I want to actually sell those T-shirts. I'm this close to doing it.
I'm all for people living their life the way that they want to. I'm as libertarian as it gets on that front, as long as your ideology doesn't infringe on my right to live my life the way that I want to. And the thing is with this, man, a lot of gaming podcasts don't even know how to approach this. Like, literally, I was watching my two good buddies. I've been on their podcast multiple times before, and they were doing a roundup, of what's been going on. And one of them did bring up Hitler, and the other individual got angry. And they're both very level-headed individuals. It's not like one is like an insane, one side or the other. No, one is from Africa who brought up Hitler. So he's an outsider to American, general American way of life, and he's just saying, yeah, this is some Hitler shit right here when we look at this list. And the other individual that was from America, he doesn't know, gaming community does not know how to deal with this situation. And you know what? I think it is extreme to bring up Hitler, but we're dealing with extreme circumstances right now within the gaming space, within our bubble, and we don't know how to deal with it. And a lot of people just want to play their video games. That's really what it boils down to. And unfortunately, we're being met with a great malice and authoritarianism in its purest form.
Yeah,
I think
you want to know how you fight that?
This is something
that go fuck yourself.
This is something that I think the anime, like the JRPGers, have been dealing with a long time. Is that the mainstream gamers are starting to meet with? Is these activists have been attacking them for the longest time. Because of the lolly characters in particular, and the sexualized characters, and then you got the trans-coded shit going on, the child-coded characters, and it's just gotten insane over there. But with the anime, the JRPGers, they have not tolerated any of this shit. They have just like called their asses out. They shut them down and move on. The Bridget situation, though, was when it really blew up. If you guys remember the thing with Guilty Gear.
Yeah.
That's when it really blew up. And that's when, you know, they lost ground. And ever since then, they've been emboldened. And I think the trans community, or not community, excuse me, the trans activists losing on this front, I think that's actually good. Obviously.
Yes, it's important.
They're going to finally lose. They're going to lose the ground that they gained from the Guilty Gear situation.
It's important to take the victory lap. That's why I've been saying we won. We won, and whether that makes them upset or not, some fucking dick face went on my my tweet and spoiled the game for me. I don't give a fuck. I don't even know who the characters you're talking about are, so I just hid the post. But I just want that motherfucker to know that, yeah, you didn't get me because I don't even know who the fuck is in the game to begin with. So, yeah, good try.
I want to put a pause on this conversation for now because this will come back later on for another story. But so we're going to hold this one off for now. I'm going to move on to our next story here. And this is the one, Cassie, I'm going to get your thoughts on this one too because this is about The Last of Us, the show that for some reason you're choosing to watch on Discord. I don't know why you would put yourself in that position here. But I guess the director of, I'm not sure if this is all the episodes or just this one episode in particular, but he basically said that, you know, we need to trick viewers into watching, you know, a gay love story because it's The Last of Us. And if there's one thing we know about The Last of Us is that they clearly don't have enough LGBTQ representation, especially in the games that you guys have played over the last few years. But HBO's hit video game adaptation of The Last of Us series took an unexpected tour to gay territory. It's not unexpected if you played the video games. Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett, I believe is his name, or Bartlett. There was an episode where they said that the director of the episode said that sometimes viewers need to be tricked into watching a gay love story. So Peter Hoare, who, or yeah, that's pretty much how it is, who was openly gay, shockingly, spoke to Science Focus Site Inverse about making the show. He said, sometimes you got to sort of trick the rest of the world into watching these things before they're like, oh my God, it was two guys. I just realized, he said. And then I think they might understand that it's all real. It's just the same love. That's his explanation of episode 3 of The Last of Us TV show, which I haven't watched and I have really no interest in watching whatsoever. Like I've said this many times before, I liked the first game. That was about it. Everything after that has just been completely downhill since. So I have no interest in watching this television show here. But then I think at one point he also directed a British miniseries about It's a Sin, which follows the life of a group of gay men at the height of the AIDS epidemic. And he says that the community was so wonderful about the whole show, referring to, you know, It's a Sin. Now it's happening again, not just with the LGBTQ community, but the Last of Us community, which I belong to. Says, obviously, if you guys played the video games, Ellie is a lesbian. There was a big thing about The Last of Us 2, about the character they inserted to essentially replace Joel, even brutally murdered Joel, which upset quite a lot of people in that game as well. So here you have someone admitting to a sense that, hey, we have to kind of subvert people into watching these scenes. Now, this is going to play into another story we're going to talk about here down the line as well. But Cassie, you watched this show. What did you think of the director's comments regarding the last episode? What did you think of the last episode?
Well, so we're up to episode 4 now, but he's directing at episode 3. And the reason why I'm watching the show is because it's surrounding the entire gaming community discourse. You can't really get anywhere without talking about it. So in order to be in, you know, it's good to be in the know in this instance, even if I'm not necessarily, I'm like, on this so far. But this guy is basically admitting that it's a bait and switch situation. Oh, wow. Whoop-de-fucking-do. Like we haven't come across this multiple times before over the past 6-7 years now. So I mean, there's some, in regards to the show, they started off pretty, I won't say 1-for-1 with the first episode, but it was as close and reasonable as you could expect for adapting a video game story to a television show story, which, you know, I was thoroughly okay with, even with the differentiations. I thought that some of the differentiations were pretty cool. Like in the moment in the game, the individuals that you're with get into a car crash, whereas in the show, instead of the car crash is like this massive plane crash, and I thought that was so fucking over the top but cool. So I was like, okay, I kind of like that, you know. And then there's instances where they've added more lore to the story that I thought was really, really interesting. Like the discussion of when pandemic started, the government essentially bombed the major cities. I thought that was an interesting addition to the story that I liked, and I thought that should be canon for certain. But in this instance, in regards to this guy right here, he admits to, yeah, we're gonna bait and switch you whenever the fuck we feel like it, and it just sucks because it's like, I don't mind you doing this, but can it not be entirely filler, and can you at least stay with the general plot of the video game? Because the video game, like, honestly, I didn't really want to watch this show, and the reason why is because the game has a really great story in its own right, the original Last of Us, and these games kind of play like, film, like long form film, where you have gameplay segments in between all that. And I really like that. So I just didn't see the purpose of the show, but it seems as though they're completely willing to put their LGBT whatever agenda before actually, adhering to the story of the series. And that's disappointed me as a fan of the game. Now, I also have an issue with the story fundamentally when I'm just judging the show based on what it is. That I definitely try to separate the two parts of me in regards to my connection with the series. I want to judge it, in comparison to the game, but I also want to judge it based on its own merits. And with episode 3, it's 90% filler. It's an hour and 15 minutes worth of content.
I think it's 120. When
Yeah,
I saw that, I was like, that's
when
insane.
Jacob showed the picture of the director from the news article, I was like, it looks kind of like, he almost looks kind of like the characters in the film. I was
it looks like
yeah.
Murray Rothbard or whatever.
I was like, oh my gosh, it's a terrible self-insert, and I'm like, oh.
I thought that Frank looked like what's his name? The dude, the director of The Last of Us 2. I forget what the fuck his name is.
Druckmann?
Neil Druckmann?
Yeah, he looks like Neil Druckmann with AIDS. That's pretty much how I thought it was a self-insert for him.
Well, I am gonna I'm gonna be on the outside of this one. Look, I completely agree with you that it deviates from the game. I mean, there's a relationship that's hinted at, but it's such a vague thing in the game. I like Nick Offerman. I thought the episode for the most part was good. But I also think it deviates from the rest of the series. I think that if you're judging it based on something that's a part of a larger framework, it's kind of a failure. I mean, yes, it's attempting to be trying to show a sweet relationship. I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't think it was that bad. But again, I'll say this. I'm more open to those things too. So
the thing is, judging that confined story on its own, it's not bad. In terms of its writing, in terms of its direction, in terms of its cinematography, it's not really bad, but that's in its own bubble. But when you look at the main plot, it literally has absolutely nothing to do with it at all.
Well, see,
and the fact that
this is where I will disagree with you for that. So it's like, this is like, I know later on, like, Ellie is like a gay lesbian kid or whatever, and it's like, this is like probably the first healthy relationship that she sees since, like.
But the thing is, she doesn't see it though.
Yeah,
well,
I mean, like, it's largely.
If now, here's the thing: if they would have made the connection of Frank meeting, not Frank, but what's his name? I forget his name.
Some generic.
The character
Bill.
There you go. If Bill ends up meeting Ellie, then it's like, okay, I can understand why we have a general, we have this backstory. I feel like the backstory could have been summarized easier, and to get to this part where like there's a reason for Bill to have this backstory, but we don't get that. It deviates from the story, from the game by killing him off, and so in the way that they did, so that in a sense, it doesn't follow through with the story. And it doesn't make sense in its own right to give this character his backstory just to kill him off before he's inserted to the main overall plot.
And I just want to jump in real quick. I will absolutely agree that The Last of Us, it was just called The Last of Us, I think, when it came out. It wasn't just part 1, but The Last of Us is largely cinematic. like the story elements of it. That's why I loved it. That's why I fell in love with those characters. That's why I hope the show actually gets back on the right track and, you know, develops that relationship between Joel and Ellie. And I've seen episode 4. I wasn't really impressed. I hope it gets better. I hope it gets back to more what episode 1 was, because I've been sort of let down since then. I did not have the same reaction to episode 3 that a lot of people did. But I like Nick Offerman. I think up until the point that relationship starts, it's interesting because at least shows him being capable and, he's a good cook. He's resourceful, all these things. I thought it at least was interesting, but I'll agree with Cassie. It's a lot of filler, and it's pretty unnecessary at the end of the day.
This was 120 minutes. This is 120
hour
minutes.
20
an episode.
Yeah, 80
and
minutes.
then the big kicker is like the big slap in the face. The following episode is just like 45 minutes long. It's just like, what the fuck are y'all doing? It's so inconsistent. Like it just screams that you guys clearly have no interest in a structure at all. You just have your, social political agenda, and you're willing to, make a sloppy story in order to push that in. And while, I think that it's not all bad here, like I think there's some, redeeming, I don't know if ultimately redeeming, but there's qualities to keep me watching. But even so, it's like I can't really be excited. Like I don't really know what to expect from him. And his, his comments just make me like, okay, well, I'm not gonna get excited because you guys have blatantly said you're gonna hit me with bait and switch. So for me to get excited for anything, it's kind of, I don't want to take that turn. But we're about to, get introduced to 2 characters in the video game that I do like. I do hope that they do them justice. And we'll have to see.
I do want to point this out because it just frustrates me every time I see the live or the actress for Ellie. She looks so horrible. I can't.
So ugly.
I can't.
I
It's
don't
like
care.
I see cosplayers of Ellie, and Naughty Dog has complimented them
That's
on
why we
Twitter
like
in
you,
the
Rob.
past. I'm like, why didn't you just hire them?
It needs to be
guess-
said. Look, I know it's mean. I know it's unfair. She's 19. I know she looks younger. She's an ugly actress. Okay, she should not have been cast. Okay,
She was cast because she's non-binary now.
But see, this is. I think they cast her.
Isn't it the Game of
purposely
Thrones
because she's
connection?
ugly.
Yeah.
She was a child actor for Game of Thrones. She
Right,
was one of the. I think that's the connection for HBO because they love to push all their Game of Thrones related actors.
Well, no, Peter. If you go back 20 years and you follow HBO series, they have some weird contract situation where multiple especially supporting actors, are either under contract or like first look, because it's amazing how many actors they reuse, and they're really good at what they do. But it's not just Game of Thrones; it goes back a long time, where it's like they have some business strategy like that.
But the cosplayer would have been cheaper than using the Game of Thrones actress. Let's be freaking real.
Yeah.
Well, as someone who has never heard of this game, never seen an episode, and has no interest in any of this in terms of viewing, we're back to what I've already mentioned in the past. Why are we in such desperate need for LGBTQ representation in film and on television when, again, in terms of characters to population, there's an overrepresentation? It is not as if people are starving for same-sex relationships to be shown.
Actually,
on
Rick,
film.
I want everyone to hold that thought because I'm going to answer that with our very next topic that we're going to discuss here. And this is a topic that I wrote about yesterday for Battling in the Comics. It's about the Ironheart series. Now, if you remember at the end of last week's show, I talked about the trans actor who's in the upcoming Ironheart, about how I don't even fucking know anymore, but how it was proud that there was going to be a show that inspired trans kids like out there, because they're still trying to pretend like trans kids are like actually a thing, like 3-year-olds who can't even read, they're all of a sudden non-binary and transgender, even though they really know that's complete BS. But to answer your question, there, it's not because this is about representation. That's what they tell you.
so that you'll actually be dumb enough to believe that. But you're wondering why that you're seeing so much of this being shoved down your throats is because there's a couple of organizations in particular that are behind this. So I wrote this here, why the MCU's Ironheart, which is a Disney Plus series, which will be out at the end of this year. It's going to be your MCU's first attempt at grooming your kids. Now, some people say it's not the first attempt at grooming your kids, but we'll get to that here in a second because that's going to be our closer here. But last year, when Disney went to war over the whole parental rights bill in Florida, they essentially said that, hey, look, if Ron DeSantis isn't going to allow activist teachers to essentially indoctrinate your kids into a lifestyle that, to just put it this way, has very bad results comes in term life, then they said, okay, well, if the teachers can't do it anymore, then we, Disney, are going to do it for them. They made it their mission. They pretty much told you flat out that, hey, look, we have a not so secret agenda to push this kind of content onto your kids. Like I said, it's not about any kind of representation. You have to look at the people who are behind these products. You have to look at people like Latoya Revenue, who we'll talk about in our closer story. You have to look at people like Katie Burke, who supposedly has a transgender and pansexual child herself. Now, she's the president of Disney's General Entertainment Content. So you ask yourself, why is this so important for them? Well, it's important to her. She said this last year as a mother of two queer children, actually, one transgender, one pansexual, also as a leader. By the way, you're talking about pansexual kids.
How do you even know?
We'll get to that. I'm gonna let you guys go off here, and then that's the one thing that's really got me, because I've heard from some of my colleagues inside of Disney over the last couple of weeks at the open forum and emails and phone conversations. I feel this is a responsibility to speak out, not just for myself but for them. Let's go down just here a little bit further, because I'm gonna come back to some of this with our next story. But we all know what happened with Lightyear. We all know what happened with Strange World. Those did massive losses for Disney's animation studio. The Ironheart show is probably going to make her they're going to make Ironheart bisexual. There's drag queens on the show. Obviously, we have a trans binary, whatever the case, actor is on that show as well. So all this is going to be all in on the new MCU show. But the question you're asking is, like, why is it that they're doing this? Sarah Kate Ellis, who's a name that I keep bringing up because she's the leader of the CEO of GLAAD, and GLAAD is the biggest LGBTQ lobby in Hollywood right now, which is the one company that's making sure that Hollywood has all of these insert characters in these movies and television shows and video games and etc. And shocker, she's a lesbian herself, but she said last year that Hollywood must take meaningful action. Well, will sue convene the biggest brands, agencies, studios, streamers together to commit to improving quality, quantity, diversity of LGBTQ images, especially in kids and children's programming. She said, this is what she said in her own words last year. And another group that's all in this is the World Economic Forum. Now, I know the World Economic Forum is a name you can't really say on YouTube without getting in trouble, but they also called for more diversity and inclusion, specifically in the LGBTQ community as well. They made in a blog post last year telling these diverse and inclusive lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer stories have never been more crucial. With the new challenges facing the community, specifically the attacks against trans youth who do not exist, the cultural institutions like television that take a crucial role in changing the hearts and the minds. What we see here, what people see and hear in media impacts the decisions that we make in school, offices, living rooms, courtrooms, and at the ballot box. So Hollywood is telling you, all these organizations, the GLAAD, Hollywood, the World Economic Forum, that, hey, we believe that by inserting these people, inserting these groups into everything you watch on television, news, video games, etc., that we're changing the way that people think, and in fact trying to change the culture, which means that they're trying to groom you by essentially putting this stuff into kids shows, knowing that they're impressionable, knowing that they don't know anything, in hopes that they will change their mind to bring them into their agenda. These are all of these organizations saying this at once. This is all in the last year. So there was a lot of people in the rainbow community who saw this article trend earlier this week, and they were all saying, oh, this is all baseless. You guys are just making nothing out of, you're just trying to make outrage out of nothing. These are all the organizations, these are all the quotes right out of their mind. So, I mean, after everything I just read to you there,
what could you possibly infer that the shows like Ironheart and shows that we talked about here so far on the show tonight are not eventually or essentially trying to groom your kids into this LGBTQ community that they all want you to be a part of? Pete, you're the most professional person here on this show. I'm going to start this one off with you. Am I inferring something that's not there, or did you listen to the quote yourself? Or am I closer to the point than I respect here?
I think you are accurate in what's happening. The issue with Disney is they don't know how to say no to any of that. I think this actually ties into The Last of Us. The problem Naughty Dog had when they were making Last of Us 2 is that Neil Druckmann, with his diverse writing team, had a situation where he couldn't say no to more good. So they said, oh, we have a scene with these characters. Oh, we should make one of these a woman. He can't say no to that. Why don't you add more?
Yeah.
Why don't you do more good? And so these organizations can push as hard and as fast as they want, at the detriment to Disney, who right now, if you haven't been paying attention, is having a major board fight, going through some huge financial turmoil, but they just cannot turn off this machine. And I know there are people are going to make things about, maybe this is about ESG or DEI. I'm not certain about those arguments, but it is not a healthy thing when Disney wants to focus so much. And I think what's going to happen, they're not even going to get a Velma situation where people hate it so much, some kind of enjoy it. What they're going to get is what they've had with many of their Star Wars and Marvel projects in the last year or two, is that no one watches, no one talks about, no one thinks about, no one cares about it. And that's incredibly detrimental to the company. But that unfortunately seems to be the foolish gamble they've made.
And to point this out, but I actually want to go to Rob before I go back to Rick here. To point this out, Disney has been having some money troubles that may have been associated to FTX's collapse, and there's been talks that they're scrambling for cash because the cash flow isn't as good as it once was, and it's because they burned their bridges with so many other properties like Star Wars, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're seeing a decline there as well, and all of these other things that they have acquired. They spent tens of billions of dollars to acquire. They spent $70 billion on Fox, and they've burned their bridge with all of these communities now that nobody even wants to watch anything associated with Disney. And it's like, okay, well, now you're in a position where you're billions of dollars kind of in the red. You kind of need people to bring people in, but ideologically, I should say, you're basically your in-house is so swayed one way to the left that there's no way to right this ship without massively cleaning house and basically coming out with some kind of statement or apology saying, hey, look, we're not going to do anything that you guys have been seeing us doing over the last how many decades at this point, but I don't think that's going to happen. Rob, you actually have to watch some of these movies coming up here soon, and you're probably wondering the same thing here. I mean, what is just your thoughts on the agenda here, not just in Disney specifically, even though they're the biggest ones, but it seems like everyone is all in on this whole thing.
Well, what you just read, what they literally chose to release as a company is something like a Twilight Zone episode from the early 60s, in which this major corporation is willingly telling you their interest is in brainwashing your children for the betterment of the world. Now, if that doesn't alarm you as a parent, if that doesn't seriously make you question whether you should be taking your children to see any Disney movies, I'm not a parent, and I would be questioning that. So I cannot imagine being that blind and that tone deaf that you would put that out there so openly and so transparently. Because to me, look, I've kind of been I'm on the show every week. Okay, I hear shit like this every week, and every week I try to be like, it's probably an overreaction. It's probably just it's something to talk about. But more and more, it's like I can't really ignore this shit anymore, and it's so disturbing, and it's so far past what I thought existed, even 10 years ago. So I almost want to bury my head in the sand, but at this point, I don't know that I can do that anymore, because it's like it's getting really apparent and really egregiously obvious that there is some kind of agenda at play.
Yeah. And before I go back to Rick, I want to go to Johnson here for a second. Obviously, you're the one
Yay.
here with child. You're the parent here. I've heard so many people. I think you even talked with Frank Picklebarrel, who if you never follow him on Twitter, he's definitely a good dude. But he's kind of in this point too, where he has kids and he's trying to like navigate like what they should watch, what they shouldn't watch, and obviously like he's more like in the pro wrestling like thing, so he's not really into like what's going on with like the culture war. But obviously, you see this more than like anyone else. Like, what is the position of people who are like, yeah, well, I mean, Disney has like some good older stuff on their platform on Disney Plus, but all the new stuff that's coming in, which is definitely aimed at kids and corrupting your kids in any way, shape, or form. Like, where do you essentially like draw the line of, look, Disney did some great things in the past, but I'm not going to support anything they do in the future, and if the rest of Hollywood is down with this, then I won't support that as well.
I mean, that's kind of the way that I've talked to my kids about it, because my parents took us to Disney World and like they loved it. They had a lot of fun, great time, and then like they started. This was like right after COVID ended too, so it was a nice time to be there. But like I was really relieved to leave. I was like, oh, thank God, because it's like this whole thing is fake, and like if you buy into the magic, it's magical, right? But there's no magic there anymore. And it's not, I mean, like for a little kid, you might not notice it, but like as an adult, I'm looking around and I'm like, yeah, there's no magic here. And but I mean, like the number thing, so like my rules for this are, number one, you do not pay for streaming services. We have no streaming services. You especially do not pay for them. And the ones that you have, like as a parent, like on your phone or the iPad or something like Peacock or like something that's free, your kids do not watch those things. It does not matter what is on them. I buy movies that they want and that I've approved, like individually. And yeah, sometimes that means paying like $20 for something, but I never have to worry about it if I've approved it. And that, like the biggest problem I've had with America in like terms of culture in the last 20 years is that we're so big on convenience sometimes that we are overly pragmatic with things. And I understand that, it's like I'm in the car line at the drive-thru. I want my food now, But there's a lot of great movies that are older that you don't have to worry about stuff, and they hold up really well. And it's nice to kind of see it. Like one of the first things that I let my kids watch was the what is it? The Premiere Pioneer translation of Sailor Moon. My kids love it, and it's so funny because they have all those like colloquialisms from the 90s and stuff in it and still. And but I have DVDs for that, and so DVDs are your friends. Don't pay for streaming services. So buy the individual things and keep them, and introduce them to like good stuff. Like I watched this weekend. We watched The Sound of Music on Sunday, and I've seen The Sound of Music like 4 times since then because they really love the music. It's this very wholesome story about, like finding yourself and Nazis taking over and stuff, and my kids, we had the Nazi talk. What is a Nazi? And said, oh, it's a nationalist socialist ideology where they get the military and social conformists to hurt you if you don't agree with them. So yeah, let me put it like this, like, don't be afraid to have children, get married, make sure the person that you marry is responsible enough to be a parent before you have kids. And hopefully they're responsible enough for you to marry them too. But don't be afraid. This is all coming at you, and it's your job to protect them, and you will step up for your kids. There's nothing in the world like the love that you have for your children. And there's nothing in the world that will, you will ever let come between that. And even this stuff, and I understand the tired parent thing too. So buy the movies individually. Don't buy streaming. Don't buy anything past 2006 without watching it. Make sure that you have the non-cable
very,
version
very
of it.
simply, don't let television raise your kids anymore. That's kind of been our problem for
Yeah.
like the last 2 or 3 decades.
Freaking men.
Yeah,
Stop
but I'm saying
putting
like
your
that's
kids
the
in
way
front
around
of
it.
People probably should have never been doing that to begin with.
I will say this.
Stop putting your kids in front of a TV screen and just like let them just consume stuff.
Yeah, and wait. The other thing is too is like for TV shows, like wait till they're all done before you let them watch them, because I've seen some really good TV shows start out really strong for the first 2 seasons, and it's like, oh, this is cute, this is fun, and then like the third or fourth season comes around and you're like, what the heck happened?
Mm-hmm.
I had this problem with Miraculous Ladybug. I actually really like the show. It's cute, but it's cute for like 30-year-old women. You know, it's not cute for like my 8-year-olds. So
I just want to say for the record, my first Nazi movie was Indiana Jones. So
well, my kid's first Nazi movie was technically The Rocketeer. So
oh yeah, that was another one. Yeah, I liked The Rocketeer a lot as a kid. Yeah.
Yes.
Something you should do. This is what my parents did with me, and actually my mom does this with my niece, my step niece. My dad used to read with me when I was younger with Frog and Toad, which is going to have a TV show on Apple TV. And then it was Harry Potter, and then that's when I got really hooked on reading. And what my mom has been doing with my step niece is every time she comes over, is she has like a recipe set up for her, and they cook together in the kitchen.
That's lovely.
Yeah, so they so she has activities set up for them. They never sit down and just watch TV now. My mom is inactive. Keep in mind, my mom is on a crutch too, so she is because even though she's disabled, she is a very active grandma.
Yeah,
So.
I will say for what it's worth too, like one of the things that I probably hate most about the response to this is like you know what you stand against, okay? And there's things that like you need to teach your kids to stand for too. Like you want, like when we talk about stuff, it's like you don't want people to like invade your land and be okay with it. That's something that came up this week with Austria and the Nazi thing and stuff. It's like, yeah, these people are taking over the country, and yeah, they made it legal, but it's not really nice of them because they were doing it kind of a wrong way, very violent way, and they ended up killing millions of people. And you know, so like instead of saying we're anti-Nazi, you say we're freedom and letting people have their choice, and you know where your boundaries are with stuff. Like, what are you standing for? I know what I stand for very well, and you know, I take my kids to church twice a week, and they have very good schooling where they learn about the Bible, and we're based in that, and that's where we belong. We visit these other things. You know, we don't need to keep them around. So
yeah, any final thoughts on this one before we wrap up for our closer here? I know Orange
Yes.
wanted to say something.
Well, I don't know if this will answer Peter's question. I was thinking about it when he was asking, how does she know? And I'm assuming it's like, how does she know that her child is pansexual and
pansexual,
transgender?
yeah.
This is a very simple answer, Peter. They tell her. They flat out just tell her, and she accepts it. Most parents who say that they have transgender children, the child will tell them, even as young as maybe 4. This was the case, and I was looking this up with this individual named Jazz Jennings, who says that at age 4, though born male, said, "I'm a girl," and the parents said, "Okay, you're a girl. We'll take your word for it," and thus this person was raised as a woman, and now is now always referred to as a woman. So this is what's happening. Whether or not that this is going on through the television shows, I can't say for sure, because I don't watch that much television myself. But it looks like a lot of modern content creators, when it comes to television and in film, they're not interested in creating programs to entertain. That is the whole point of a television program that's scripted. I'm not talking about like a documentary series that's supposed to be informative, although that can be very shady in terms of how it portrays certain things. In terms of programming, all the content now is to quote better the world, reflect the world we live in, make it a much more tolerant, equitable, tolerant place. That is why we have all of these programs that are focused on LGBTQ. We've had that with was it The Last of Us? We've had this with Ironheart. We're going to have this with more and more programming for children. I mean, wasn't Nickelodeon also having promos talking about racism, talking about transgender? They have. That's why we have
Cartoon
drag
Network as
queen.
well.
I'm sorry.
Cartoon Network as well.
Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
So we have the drag queen story times because we want to introduce them to all of this. They are confusing tolerance. They're confusing tolerance with
conformity.
Well, yes, I'll take conformity. I don't see why we need a drag queen, and at the library where I work, I mean, we've had drag queen story hours. I'm not specifically clear as to why a man who dresses like a woman, and I presume it's not because they believe that they're women, but they're doing it for entertainment purposes. Why they need to read to children in full drag makeup. But this has been going on for a long time. This idea that these programs are not there to entertain, because a lot of creatives nowadays, they're convinced that they are not there to entertain. They are not there to take you away from your troubles. They are not there to make you laugh or to make you cry. They are there to educate you. They are there to better you. They are there to make you a better person.
What you're saying is there are a bunch of dick faces out there that think they're more fucking important than they realistically are. They are a shit stain on our society. And honestly, this conversation, like this topic, not to disrespect anyone here, makes me want to fucking vomit.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I agree with Cassie.
But that's the reason that they create. That's the reason that they write. That's the reason we have to have a transgender character and a non-binary character.
These are the most worthless. These are the most worthless human beings in human history that think that they're somehow the most fucking important human. It's like insane how mentally fucking deranged these people are. And I feel as though they really need to be told this more fucking often.
But this is it. I mean, for right now, it's cultural. Oh, I'm sorry, Jacob. I mean, this is cultural. You just have the same thing when you had, was it socialist realism, or when you had films, from the Nazi era, or those praising Mussolini or praising Chairman Mao, or maybe Franco. You all created, even in the 40s. People forget, in the 40s, you had many films that praised President Roosevelt. Holiday Inn had a whole musical number to praise President Roosevelt. Even
pure propaganda.
That's because FDR was a freaking socialist.
Well, he might have been. I did see the big scary S word. Even something as schlocky as "What's the Matter with Helen" had a whole musical number. It was set in the 40s, praising our beloved president Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I see some of these things, and I'm disturbed because it is very propagandistic. And now you have it, but in this case, it's not It's not a political leader that they're pushing. It is a socio-sexual view where it is all about sex. And I don't know, I'm puzzled with why there's such an obsession about sex, why you need to show children so much about sex. And sometimes these kids are just not ready. They're not ready mentally. I don't think a 4-year-old can declare himself or herself a member of the opposite gender. I know that as a 4-year-old, I wouldn't have had such concepts.
Well, how many of these celebrity kids, like how many of these celebrities have adopted kids from other countries and be like, oh yeah, they're trans, like Charlize Theron or like Dwayne Wade's kid. I mean, I don't want to get into that too much, but Dwayne Wade had some weird shit come out lately where it's like,
the very disturbing.
But again, it goes back to that idea. You're because we've been told that you are born transgender. A child can, at 4 or 3, tell the parent, I'm a girl. They say that I was, if I'm born male,
what makes me really
and that's when you look at the kid and say, no, you're fucking confused.
No. That's
But you know what's
what
funny?
you
'Cause-
guys might do. But that's not what modern parents are taught. Since they're taught that they're born that way, that they're taught that that's how they were created. They have
should
to
be
accept
smart
it.
enough to know that's bullshit.
Except that modern parents are the same parents. Well, they may have grown up a generation under me, but most of them grew up in the same freaking generation that I did. The fact that they actually, or if they grew up thinking that sort of shit was acceptable, they shouldn't be parents. In fact, they need CPS called on them. The main problem with today's society, Cassie has it absolutely fucking right. These people were allowed to live their delusions. They were enabled too fucking much. This whole thing with the Ironheart and whatnot, in their attempt to fight bigotry and to get rid of bigotry, they are creating bigotry because they are saying you're either going to conform to our way or you are going to be seen as evil, not bigoted, evil. And that is why people are railing against it. That is why people are fighting against it, because they are sick and tired of being called evil, bigoted, racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic. We're sick of it. So
Well, not only
yeah,
that,
we are
just
going
real
to
quick,
fight
hold on,
against
just real
it.
quick. Not only that, but they're also trying to normalize this idea that a child, before he can learn or he or she can learn to communicate, read, do math, or anything else, can figure out their sexuality. If you even
No child is
suggested
able to
this
do that.
30 years ago, you probably would have gotten shot. Like, that's the reality. If you tried to make the argument 30 years ago that, oh no, kids could definitely know their sexuality at 3 years old, you would be shot, blindsided.
You'd be seen
off
as a
the street.
pedophile.
Yeah.
You'd be seen as a pedophile if you tried that 30 years ago.
But now
And
you have
that's
Disney
another
shows
thing.
trying to normalize this.
Here's
What's
the
super
facts that nobody
concerning-
wants to say. A kid does not know anything about their own sexuality until they are well past puberty, when they are able to actually start learning about it and their brains are able to start comprehending it. A human brain is not fully developed until it is in their 20s.
Yeah, a kid doesn't know anything, period. Not
Well,
just
and
about that.
Exactly.
A kid doesn't know anything. So-
Even
If
in
a
the
kid says, I'm a
developmental phase-
fucking unicorn, then I'm going to show them, this is what a unicorn looks like. Is that you? No, that's what I thought. You're a human being. You need help. And you need to understand that this is not the way to live.
Yeah, well, I mean, even in the developmental stages, like with Piaget's stages of development and Erikson's 8 stages of development, you don't have the secondary gender sex characteristics come out until they're teenagers. Like women get their periods, for example, at a certain point. And men start getting their testosterone with the facial hair and the Adam's apple and everything like that. I mean, like, these things happen in their teenage years typically, unless there has been some significant hormonal input. One of the things that I thought was really weird is that like, there was when I was growing up, somebody told me that there was, like, in this one particular brand of, like, restaurants, chicken nuggets, there were a lot of hormone issues and girls were starting to develop earlier if they ate a lot of them. And I was like, yeah, never eating chicken nuggets again, thanks. So, like, I can see that kind of line of reasoning on some level, but, like, typically without that kind of level of maybe conspiracy theory or bad research, or maybe, true research that got buried for reasons, I don't know, like, it's not till your teenage years that you even worry about that stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And here's a little story. I know we usually shit on Josh all the time because it's very, very easy to do so, but he had just posted an article on Bounding into Comics as well. And it flows to our story here, just a little sidebar, that apparently, did you guys hear the story about the ABC News producer who was arrested on child pornography?
Yep.
As they're posting all this other stuff. So yeah, we have the old Star Wars is drag thing and them trying to make Luke Skywalker LGBTQ on top of everything else that were mentioned in the next story we're about to mention on top of that. But who's the guy's name here? James Gordon Meek was arrested on child pornography charges with multiple devices that allegedly contain evidence of the transportation of images of child sex abuse, which are all secretly seized by law enforcement. And keep in mind, this is a top tier executive at ABC News, owned by Disney. So when you hear all of this nonsense that the people who are pushing this
Shocker.
have the right intentions, shocker, yeah. Seeing several images of sexually explicit conduct, including children. Several chat conversations described as sexually explicit, which included participants who expressed enthusiasm for sexual abuse of children. So he was part of an entire pedophile ring, which I wouldn't be shocked if there were some more people in his company, because I don't know if you noticed this, Disney seems to have a big problem with their employees being involved in either sex trafficking, human trafficking, especially trafficking of kids as well. So
that's because Disney endorses it too much.
Well, I mean, this is a human issue, though. Is like the strongest things about any person in particular are their convictions, and whatever you believe, it'll eventually come to the surface of who you are, and you can say one thing and not mean the other. Like you can say one thing and not mean it, Yeah. And that's how we get hypocrisy. That's how we got here. Whatever you believe, it will come out. And this is the prime example. Obviously, this person believes terrible things. And it wouldn't, if you're enabled to do those things, if there's an incentive or an opening to pursue those things, human nature sides with the thing that's like, yeah, you're going to do it.
Well, we have one more story here. This will be our last story tonight. But beforehand, if you guys see in the chat right now, I put up the link for our Rumble account for Society Reviews, because apparently this week they announced that they're lowering the requirement to live stream on Rumble from 100 to 25. So if you go on our Rumble account, if you have Rumble at the moment, there is about 25 people. We have 21 people currently on our Rumble page. If we can get the number up to 25, we can start streaming on Rumble as well. So hopefully we can get that up there so you guys can support us over there. We have one more topic on the night. This is our final topic of the night, and we're staying on the topic of Disney, and we're staying on the topic of them essentially teaching values to your kids that you don't want them to be taught, and the Proud Family. Now, I don't know how many of you guys watched the OG Proud Family from the early 2000s.
I did.
I watched it.
Right?
Yeah, Disney Channel.
Joe.
I did. I loved it growing up.
Like I said, wasn't my most favorite show on Disney Channel back in the day, but it was a decent show for its time. A lot of people liked it. It was very, very dear to a lot of people's hearts. Well, this new one has come out. It's called The Proud Family, Louder and Prouder. And for those of you guys who don't know exactly who's behind this show, the woman who I mentioned in the last, or Ravino, I believe is her name, she's the executive producer, and she's the one who coined the term the not-so-secret gay agenda, because she was putting a whole bunch of LGBTQ stuff in the show. She's one of the executive producers of the show. She's directed multiple episodes of the show. She's heavily involved in the production of this show. And over the weekend, there was a whole bunch of viral clips that went online showing that the Proud Family has essentially gone all in on critical race theory, anti-American values, anti-white values, the whole nine. So I'm going to summarize it as best as I can here. So I think it was on the first, they released the second season of this show. So people start scrolling through all of the episodes. But there's one episode in particular. Actually, there's two, but I'm going to start with the one here. That it was the one called Juneteenth, which caused a lot of backlash, and a lot of people were talking about this online, because essentially what the setup of the show is that you have a 14-year-old BLM anti-Trump activist, and that's how they described her on the show. I'm not just making that up. Who has two gay dads, by the way, one white, one black, and they're in this fictional town called Smithville, California. And the setup of this episode was that they find out that the founder of the town was actually a slave owner. Now, keep in mind you're talking about a town in California, which was only established like years before slavery was abolished in the United States of America. So they're using the state of California to make a slavery analogy, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But as you see, as we go on here, nothing that they say here makes sense. So this is the woman who directed this episode, but she has directed multiple episodes in this series. But she's the one who talked about the agenda that Disney has with this show. So in this episode, the propaganda was turned up to 11 on multiple fronts here. So let me make sure I back up here. Yeah, so like I said, the true history of Smithville, showing that the town founder was a slave owner. They also went as far as to say that the Emancipation Proclamation only applied to Confederate states, which is their justification of why a state in California would have any way, shape, or term have involvement with slaves. And trust me, that's an argument that they are going to make, especially with California talking about reparations and stuff like that. So the show continues with Maya leading a protest against the legacy of the town. And then Maya's black gay husband tells the white gay husband, there's a video of this too. He literally says, this is a real dialogue, do something with your white privilege as the police officers are coming in to arrest the kids for protesting. That was a real line from the show. I visually cringed when I heard that. I couldn't believe that they did that, but propaganda didn't stop there. There was another clip of the show that's also gone viral where the kids do a spoken word poem entitled "Slaves Built This Country," where they claim that the entire that America has not atoned for the sin of slavery. So forget the Civil War, forget the Civil Rights Movement, forget the ending of Jim Crow. America still hasn't atoned for slavery. We need to do so through reparations and freedom and whatever nonsense they're putting into this kids show. By the way, this is a show for they're going for a younger audience with this kid. So this is what they're trying to instill to your kids. The scene is just an outright denouncement of the United States of America, hating of American values, the founding fathers. I can't play it here. Obviously, it's going to get claimed, but you guys can watch it. It's online there right now. This is coming off the back of Disney promoting the 1619 Project on Hulu, which is basically just continuing these false notions that America was built, was fought for slavery, built for slavery, and the whole founding of America is built on black oppression. There was even another episode that didn't get as much play as this one, where I guess all of the quote-unquote minority characters were giving the white character Zoe a hard time because she was dating a guy who only wanted to date white girls and didn't want to date black girls, so they forced her to break up with the guy because he was a bad guy because he didn't want to date black women. So she literally had to apologize to her friends for dating someone who I guess didn't want to have sleep with their friends. It's a whole bunch of just political racial nonsense in this television show for kids on Disney Plus. All of this is Disney backed. So as we've been going on here for like almost the last hour here, these are the values that Disney are trying to instill into your kids. They're destroying everything you once loved, bastardizing everything, and then they're trying to corrupt your kids any way, shape, or form they possibly can. I'm going to start with Nerdigans here because you actually watch this show, so you know a lot about it. What do you think of Proud Family basically just going full BLM, full critical race theory on this kids show for Disney Plus?
This goes against the episode where Penny goes back in time to like the civil rights movement and she meets Martin Luther King, and it's right before integration kicks in. And it's just like, what are you doing? You basically regressed all the lessons that were discussed in the Proud Family. Where's the original creator in all this? Because the original Proud Family is something that a lot of minorities really liked because they could relate to it. And I saw a video of this Black woman talking about the problematic factors of the Proud Family. And I looked at the comment section and they were like, dude, that's the point. You can't have a show not talking about these problems because this is what we live. We have this kind of life. Yeah. Do we want to but as darker parts of our life? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
But just real quick, this is what they're pushing now, because you heard them say it on the show themselves. America still has not atoned for slavery, right? So in their minds, we've in the course of the last 150 years since the slavery has been over, in the 200 years that we've been a country, we still haven't done enough for black people to atone for the sins of slavery. So in their minds, they want you to believe that this is still a world, everything goes back to slavery, everything goes back to oppression, and we haven't done enough after fighting a bloody war that plenty of people died in to feel equality. The whole civil rights movement, that whole thing that we pretend that we're proud of now that happened in the 1960s, apparently that didn't mean shit either. So nothing up to this very point matters anymore. This is what they want you to teach your kids. I've said this many times before. The reason why they're doing this is because they want to get to a generation of people that 20 years down the line, when they do come for things like the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, even the 19th, even the 14th Amendment, that they wanted to get to a point where those kids won't even bother to fight for their rights anymore, because they've been installed since that they were younger that America is racist, American values is racist, and anything that if you fought for anything that America was founded upon, you're a bad person. So you have to submit those rights so that we can get equity, not equality, but equity. Cassie,
that's why I think they need to start erasing some of, or honestly, I think an inquisition is necessary nowadays.
I think we're well past that part, but yeah, I definitely agree. But Cassie, I know you've been sitting on this one for a minute. I wanted to get your thoughts on this one, and I'll let Pete jump in.
Somebody came at me on Twitter just because I had an American flag in my bio. Mind you, I also have the Puerto Rican flag because I'm half Puerto Rican, the Italian flag because I'm 1/4 Italian, and the Irish flag because I'm also 1/4 Irish. But apparently, the American flag was the thing that made this person have to go out of their way to say I'm discredited simply because the American flag is in my bio. Yeah. And this is what we're creating. These people just want to create a world full of hate and disdain, and it shows. And sadly, I feel as though they are successful because I have withdrawn myself because I'm tired of being surrounded by hate. And watching this this unfold, it's just continuing to spiral us on a very, very shaky path going forward. And they want to push political agenda on children. They want to push things that disrupt modern society. But in the grand scheme of things, this stuff is being pushed to individuals like ourselves that are regular, average, everyday. We will most likely be 9 to 5 workers for the remainder of our life, and so are our children. That's the sad reality of the situation. But they want to make sure that we cannot rise to their level. Anything to cause disruption in the general public, anything to make you confused, to take you off the beaten path to success, they're totally for that. While pretending that they're completely in the right and that they're virtuous and all that, all their advocacy is bullshit. It has not actually benefited society in any way, shape, or form. It's done nothing but created division, created confusion, created disruption. That's all they care about, because they want to make sure that we are the peasants forever, and their generation, many generations of offspring, will be the ones pulling the strings. That's all it is. These people, like the Disney, the people behind all these giant mega corporations, they have multi-generational wealth. Them making more money, like the motherfucker from Amazon, multi-generational wealth. Them making money now is meaningless in the grand scheme of things. They don't know what to do with all this money that they have now. So what's the next thing after that? Yeah, to secure permanent place at the top, and to keep us from ever coming near their pyramid that they've created.
I agree with that.
Go ahead, Peek. I know you want.
Thank you. I've just been chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
Talk about how often I love the Proud Family. I loved it back in the day, still do. It just like the opportunities to talk about the Proud Family, not very often. Disney.
There's new retro wave coming, right?
The Proud Family is the Proud Family is an awesome show. It is kind of a weird place because it's like before everything becomes so culturally divided. So it's almost kind of a just barely post 9/11, but still kind of classically liberal sense that a lot of us were in back in the 90s. And it's a very, in many ways, it's actually culturally family values, very conservative in many ways. And it was a very welcoming show. And the production, if you ever saw any of the actors behind the scenes, they were very much into what was happening there. Was it the most lavish show on Disney? No, but it was pretty well loved. The episode that Nerdigans referred to is considered maybe the best episode, or it's often too. I think it was nominated for some awards. I Have a Dream, where the story is she ends up going back in time. We don't know if it's actually a dream or what, but the story is it's about segregation. It's not just segregation like we traditionally see it, where it's like all the white people are being bad to Penny, and she's the black person. But actually, it's pretty well divided. It's between Zoe, who's the white person, and her family and friends, and Penny and her and family and friends. So it's a very much more realistic look. Even at the time, maybe that's a little controversial. And there's some great lessons there, and a great love and craft, and just something really beautiful. Sometimes the show was terrible and was corny and gross, but often it was actually pretty heartfelt. One of my favorite things I kind of like to think of the way that show was back then is when they have a day where like dress up as your favorite character from history, and Penny chooses Madam C.J. Walker, this fabulous African American capitalist.
Yep.
I mean, everything that show was about, all those values, what made people like it, that has now been thrown away in favor of something that's so hollow, so meaningless. And it's so sad. I think of that episode, I Have a Dream, where Zoe and Penny, they push aside the racial feelings so that they can be friends. This episode is repudiating that. This is actually Zoe was right. She should feel. I mean, no, Penny and her friends, they were right. Zoe should feel bad. She should sit there as the white girl putting up her pitiful sign, looking ashamed.
Yeah.
And I one thing I'd add, and maybe this is my naivete, I know it doesn't get the buzz, but I truly believe things have gone so far, it does push most people off. And maybe they won't say it publicly, but it's like, I'm sorry. One of you mentioned how you saw the comments on a TikTok video. People were pushing back. And I don't think this stuff is going to land, because they needed, Disney, for them to make this trick work with having like the huge amount of like just crazy dog crap propaganda. There had to be the prestige. There had to be the kayfabe. There had to be, the illusion that we're selling you entertainment. But that's gone. And the normies see it. We see it. The people on the left, except for the diehards, and they'll pretty much swallow anything. The rest of us are out. And I just am very hopeful, maybe compared to a lot of you, because I just don't think this stuff is going to work.
I mean, I think that's great that you just said that, because what you just said is what I've been hoping for the last 8 years. I've been waiting for people to sort of wake up and to be like, these are just stupid victim narratives. There's no hero's journey. There's no, I mean, all of this stuff, and I've said this before on here, it's in comic books, it's in manga, it's in video games, it's in kids entertainment. It's fucking everywhere. The whole diversity quota bullshit, the whole equity is more important than telling a good story. And it's like, I've literally ripped out some of my hair. I'm just kidding, I'm going bald. But no, seriously, I've ripped out my hair out of frustration, because it's like, when I realized too late how great entertainment was for so long, and realizing you had missed it or not appreciated it, it was like, oh my God, we're gonna just have a wasteland of dog shit for the next 50 fucking years, aren't we? So I hope what Peter just said there is true. I hope that people wake up to this shit and are like, nope, no thank you. We will go somewhere else for our entertainment.
Well, in regards to Proud Family, I will say this. In regards to Proud Family, the original audience, they are not happy. They're not happy, like with Dejanay, for example. They're not happy that they made her louder and fatter. They don't like that at all, for one thing. They don't like that Sticky, the one who was grounded, is not there anymore. Well, Orlando Brown has had his problems, so he's not going to be there.
You do need body positivity. Just sharing some little observations here. First, since I'm a little older than you guys, I have other memories. For example, I do remember, and I think other people have brought up Glory. I always go back to Morgan Freeman's monologue, where he talks about all of them, how he's buried all these white white men who are dying for them.
Yep.
And all he says is, when is it our turn? When will we be able to fight for our own people's freedom? And apparently that's not enough for the creators of this new version of the Proud Family. All the sacrifices at Gettysburg. I mean, remember, these are the same. These are probably not literally the same people, but they're the same people who tagged the 54th Massachusetts Regiment monument as a symbol of white supremacy. I also know that my mom, who was a Mexican immigrant, she always loved to tell me, that she was the real American, not me or my father. You two were just born here. She always liked to tell us. She took the test, and most of these people who are writing this would not pass the citizenship test.
Yeah.
Of course, my mother also believed, because of the Jeffersons and the Cosby Show, that all black people were rich. So take that for whatever you will. We just assume that. All I can say is that I'm just astonished at the people who are writing these episodes of the Louder and Prouder family. Just how much anger, how much resentment, how much bitterness they have towards this country. My mom, of course, being the Mexican immigrant, she loved this country. She was just proud. She loved being an American, and she instilled that in me. I love this country. This country has provided for me not creature comforts. It's provided me the opportunity to pursue anything that I wish. I don't know many other nations that would do that. And for all of these creators who are adamant that we don't know anything about, we don't teach Black history, we don't acknowledge the contributions. Maybe it's just an educational thing, but when I was growing up, I learned about Phyllis Wheatley. I love Phyllis Wheatley. I learned
Yeah,
about
her
Madam
poetry is
C.J.
really
Walker.
good.
I'm sorry.
Her poetry is really nice.
Yes, and I learned about Madam C.J. Walker. I learned about George Washington Carver. That was in our books. Booker T. Washington. uh, I learned all about them. I don't understand why a lot of creators seem to think that they don't. Um, when it comes to, I know the episode's Juneteenth. I at first supported the idea of making Juneteenth a federal holiday. I'm more dubious now because I worry that it's going to be, quote, our holiday or their holiday, and non-African Americans will not be allowed or will be shamed out of celebrating this, and then there'll be African Americans will be shamed into celebrating Independence Day. Um, but when it comes to this TV show, it's clear that the people who are writing it want to give the kids a particular message, and it saddens me. It saddens me that there's such anger, such hatred, such animosity. We're what, one, two generations, maybe three generations removed from legalized segregation, from the inability to participate fully in society for not just African Americans. I would count myself as a Hispanic, as and to think that people say or believe that this nation is more oppressive, um, I don't believe that is the case, and it saddens me that there are people who want to, not just, if they believe that, I can't stop them from believing it, but they want to use their skills, their positions, to tell kids that this country owes them something. It owes them reparations. It owes them a big check. Here's my question to all those who demand reparations: how much does my 85-year-old Mexican aunt need to send Oprah Winfrey? How much do I mean? Are we going to send money to the Duchess of Sussex's kids, and are we going to go by percentages of African American blood? Or they want to also say it's.
Or what about Jay-Z, who probably killed more people selling dope in the 1980s than any Southern slave owner? That he
Yeah,
probably
or
killed
Ray
in his head.
Lewis, who murdered a guy.
And I noticed. I noticed that in the article, they ultimately changed the name of the community. This is again part of the purging of American history. They want to purge American history, but they're not actually doing anything good. They are trying to erase history. We need to see history for what it was. And also the two gay dads, Zachary Quinto, an openly gay white man, and Billy Porter, an openly gay black man. So even then they're still basically playing versions of themselves. It's not a genuine acting. I'm just saddened. I'm not as attached to the Proud Family. I don't think I saw it when it came out. But if you're going to use your program to just tell kids this these terrible messages about, oh, you can't date someone of the of a different race because it will somehow offend your friends, then why do we have all of these interracial commercials? I mean, we were told love is love, but not when it comes to people of the opposite of different races. It's distressing. It's awful. Again, you're the parent. You're the ones who control the programming. Control the programming if you don't want to see this. But it saddens me. It just saddens me more than anything else.
Any final thoughts on this one before we wrap this one up? Go ahead.
I'll make it quick or very simple. This new show, Proud Family, I consider it a hate crime.
Why not?
I consider it a hate crime against America, against white people. I consider it a hate crime against the American way of life.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say on it.
I mean, you're talking about a show that not even just a show, but like I said, creators who are openly hostile against everything that America stands for, openly hostile against white people in general. They're instilling all of their twisted, I wouldn't even call them Louis Farrakhan viewpoints, because let's be honest, they're probably too far straight away from that, with the whole LGBTQ community trying to mix in with that one as well. But these people who try to install their hateful ideology into impressionable kids, like we said with the story with Ironheart, they're trying to create their new generation of foot soldiers.
They're creating a new generation of racists.
Yep.
They are the ones that are keeping racism alive and well. When the 60s and Martin Luther King Jr. fought to end racism, and believe it or not, his doctrine lived on. I grew up on the doctrine of Martin Luther King Jr. to treat people not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. It seems that these idiots that made this show do not follow that doctrine. They feel that doctrine is somehow an evil thing. Honestly, they are what is wrong with humanity. Not just America, but humanity.
Yep.
I want to bring this up as well, is that someone was posting this too in response to the whole thing with the Proud Families. They pointed out how Static Shock was another show that covered race relations too. And you don't see shows like Static Shock or the original Proud Family nowadays.
That was a good show, Static Shock.
It's actually on HBO Max currently. I saw it the other day, and I never watched it when it was on, so it might be something to revisit.
Yeah, it's real. Static Shock was way ahead of its time.
I bought it for my kids. So, I am going to call on all the white people in Disney's leadership place that haven't been arrested for having cheese pizza on their computer desks.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Sorry.
I'm calling on all of them to give Disney Plus subscriptions to Black people. So, for free.
Yeah,
they're only 13% of the population, guys. Let's get to work.
That's good reparations right there. That would work.
Look, if your government can't mandate reparations, why don't you just do it yourself, Disney? Come on, step up.
Give them Disney World, Disney. Come on.
But question:
free access to Disney World, housing on campus. I want to see this.
I'm curious. CS, what if it's an interracial couple and you have one parent who's black, one parent is white? Do they get like just a discount? They don't get the full free?
Like I said, people are so unironically racist now that people were, because the Super Bowl is coming up this weekend and Patrick Mahomes is playing in the Super Bowl, and I guess him and his wife just had another kid, or maybe their first kid, I'm not sure, but people were complaining because he's biracial and his wife is white, so his kid is obviously 3/4 white, and you had a bunch of people on the Black Twitter side, shockingly, that were upset that that basically his kid doesn't have enough melanin in his anymore. So
I will never understand that obsession with I think it's called colorism.
Yeah.
Like the obsession with how dark your skin is. It's like, why do you care? It's nothing to do with who you are as a person.
It's so ironic because in their minds, it's like the reason why you're seeing like a lot of like interracial couples is not to like upset like the Black community. They think that it's upsetting white people when they do that. Like they're thinking that it's upsetting like white men showing like white women with like Black men, but in reality, it's upsetting Black women, and they're the ones who are far more vocal about it, especially on social media, about interracial couples, about biracial kids, stuff like that. And you're seeing a lot of that racism being projected in these television shows, which are written and created and produced by Black women. This is why you had that one episode where they're getting mad at the white girl because the guy that she's dating doesn't date Black women, so they're getting mad at her because she should be showing solidarity with her Black friends by not dating the Black guy who doesn't date Black women. So
she should just date a white guy. Is that what they're saying? That
apparently.
But it's okay for Black women to date white men, though, in their minds.
Yeah, no one's gonna call out Serena Williams, but if it's the other way around, then that's to get some really
no one's gonna call out Meghan Markle. And
oh come on, my mother's blacker than her. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Hey, she's gonna get that. She's gonna get some of that reparation check because she is half African American, and her kids. One of who has like bright red hair, she's going to get like some money as well if they go with this cash reparation system. And what worries me is that we're going back to this nonsense about one drop. I mean, if you have seen Showboat, the whole part of the plot hangs on the fact that one of the performers has a small percentage of African American. Her grandmother was Black.
Dude, we've gone so full circle with this whole issue. We have Black people now unironically advocating for segregation, resegregation under the guise that it'll actually be safer for Black people to be amongst themselves, be out of the way of white people. So all of these racist quote-unquote policies that we were fighting against back in like the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, we're now bringing them all back under the guise that, oh no, it's going to help Black people this time around.
mean, I'm sorry, but that whole thing, did that work in Memphis?
Not yet.
Nothing has worked in Memphis.
It didn't work in
Chicago.
The last time I checked, it's not working in Detroit very well either.
Okay, Rick. All right. If they're biracial, okay, so you give all the Black people Disney Plus and Hulu, but if they have any interracial blood, you only get Disney Plus.
If they're interracial, they can only go to Disneyland, not Disney World.
There you go.
Yeah, they can't go to the California Adventure. Okay.
Reparations for everybody.
Speaking of Hulu, did you guys? Sorry. Did you guys hear that they dropped the 1619 thing?
Yeah.
Did they drop it?
On Twitter. I was dying.
No, they didn't drop. They dropped it on their platform. They put it on their platform.
Yeah, because they've been heavily promoting that all weekend. Like they were promoting it during the Pro Bowl on ESPN.
Yeah, and they're saying, and that actor's like, or we are owed reparations, and I'm like, you ain't owed shit, bitch.
Mm-hmm. Like I tell these people, you were born during the fucking age of TRL. No one owes you a fucking thing.
I actually kind of laughed when I saw the Prouder and Louder clip because these girls were fighting over dating stuff, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness we've ditched the feminist propaganda where they're only concerned about their careers. We've got back to this really shallow.
It shows really like this that make me want to be a misanthrope.
I'm just curious. As a Hispanic male, would I be allowed to date the white girl, or would I just be put in a separate category?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes to what?
Just yes to both.
Yes.
Yes.
To be fair, Rick, I think I'm very much an individualist, so it's like you're in your own category anyway, and I think that's very nice. So
Thank you. Well, I mean, I am the waspiest Mexican in the world, so I'm culturally Anglo.
Waspiest. Do you got a stinger?
Well,
no, it's a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant acronym.
Very good.
and I am
Yeah.
Protestant. I know I go to a nice Baptist church and everything.
As my good buddy Dean says,
unironically would get along super well if we lived closer.
it was my good buddy Dean says it shows like this that made me want to move to Saudi Arabia and tell them to give them less rights. So, any final thoughts here on this show before we wrap things up?
One of the things that I picked up like on our thread throughout the night is that like we live in an age of purity tests, like, and there's no room for nuance and stuff. Like even with like the Elon Musk thing and how he handles things with the Eliza Bleu situation. And I mean, like at some point, everything is a bit of a test, and not everybody's going to pass it all the time. And I think it's worth giving people the benefit of the doubt sometimes with stuff like this, because you're really only tested on, like, when you take things from theory and you put them into practice, it's a lot harder to stand still and remain there. You know, I say this as a mother. I say this as so many other things too. One of the biggest changes in my life is in having kids is like my son doesn't like to do his homework. So we're having issues with his teacher about his homework. But when I was a teacher, I had one kid that was exactly the same. And it was like, if he knows how to do the work, just do the work. And here it's like, my son knows how to do the work. He's not going to do the work. And this is like within a 10-year span of getting my teaching degree and then becoming a mom and having these kids and stuff. So I think like the important thing is to reverse, like especially with the woke stuff, like there's purity tests here that just will not be forgiving. They will not have that element of humanity in the sense that like your experiences changes how you see things. I mean, even with Rowling, she's never said that she's hated trans people. She just wants women to be protected. And she's had that experience with domestic abuse by her, I think it was by her first husband or maybe her boyfriend, where she's been in that position where she's been terrified of men. And I think it's actually kind of brave of her to stand up and say this, especially, but I mean, I think it's also wrong that people like kind of project this idea that she hates them because she disagrees with them because of her life experiences. I mean, like, there's this whole big, large rabbit hole you could dissect all of this with, but purity tests are not helpful in reality.
I mean, look, this whole thing, I mean, Disney,
yeah,
like I said, Hollywood is all in on this one. Some studios are worse than other. I don't think anyone at this point in the time is worse than Disney at this point. So.
Yeah. Well, people forget, like,
Disney is what's wrong with the world.
Well, Disney caved into China and cut the Hong Kong labor camp episode of The Simpsons. So what is that?
I will say, like, when we went to the Chinese section of Disneyland, and this was like 2 years ago and stuff, like they just talked about all the poetry that came out of China, the Great Wall and the empires, and I was sitting there laughing, and I doesn't want to talk about communism.
Yeah, I love the Chinese culture, and I love the Chinese pavilion. They're not going to, as far as I know, they're not going to do a dance for Chairman Mao.
Well, I just kind of laugh too because there's all these Shen Yu posters around where I live, and it's advertising it very blankly as China before communism. I would sit there and I'll laugh.
I think at this point they
I don't think they've
not
ever
wait.
done anything other than
I think they should
communism.
defrost Uncle Walt and have him take over the company. You know, get him out of his cryogenic chamber or wherever he's stashed out there, and
he'd
just
off himself.
Yeah,
it won't because they went into the cryogenic vault and they smashed him.
I think they've been using him as an
They
electric
made sure to do
generator
that.
since his head keeps just rolling around after everything that they're doing.
They made sure to do that a while back when Chapek or Iger originally took over.
Well, look, we've reached the end of our show here. We went kind of long tonight because certain people on our panel decided to answer questions like women. I'm not throwing anyone particularly under the bus here tonight, but I'm just saying that wrap it up, G. That's all I'm saying. But outside of that, we had a good conversation tonight. We touched on a lot of big topics here, a lot of heavy topics, some topics that are obviously going to make some people very, very upset, and not so much. This is the part of the show where I'm giving you the opportunity to promote anything you want to promote, and let's start with our guest here, who kindly has been patient with us all night tonight and give us some good insights. No, not you, Pete. We're going. No, sorry. Yeah, we're going.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on. Good discussion. I feel like C.S. Johnson and Nerdigans, I feel like they're the kind of people that be parents that when they read their kids the giving trait, it's like it's instructive lesson on what not to do. So that's been kind of fun. But no, thank you everyone for letting me be on the show today. Be sure to check out the Frosk interview. I've had a crazy amount of negativity sent my way, which it's like if anyone engaged with anything I'm doing, but it is a little interesting to watch all that happen. So it was nice to come here and talk with people who are also concerned about the culture and really appreciate all the good things that we do have. And it's been fun. Thank you.
All right, moving over to our good buddy Orange Hat. What you got coming up, Orange?
Well, I got I'm now in the month of February, so mystery reviews are now romance based. I just did my first mystery review for this month was Legend, where it was fantasy and romance. And next week's hints are Living Dead romance. So if you can guess from that, that's awesome. Also, my mystery reviews are now 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon, so I'm not competing with bigger channels in the morning. Fucking Aussies. They know I love them. But yeah, I'm now streaming at 2:30 in the afternoon on Tuesdays so as not to cross the streams with them. And I do guest choice reviews where I bring on guests and discuss a movie of their choice, and they get to choose the time and date. Other than that, I'm covering the Alec Baldwin situation, which hopefully will become a lot more active as trials and stuff are planned. So, yep, thanks again to Nerdigans for that article. And I cover other stuff as well. I've been doing shorts where I make fun of Hunter Biden. I did a couple.
Dead, we'll know why.
Yep, I did a couple of those over the last couple days, especially that one that I did tonight. I thought was pretty clever. But anyway, yeah, that's me and what I got going.
Yes. Hi everyone. Yep, buy my books because yep, buy my books. I actually really love
just gave up halfway during the pitch. Just completely
just fucking buy her books, man.
It's propaganda.
Yeah, buy her books. They're about a fat chick that's heroic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, I actually put one in the chat where so I touch on like I really like my work. I know because I create it and stuff, but like in my Kingdom of Ash and Soot series, the Order of the Crystal Daggers, I talk about my favorite line from the whole series is Lumiere's, and Lumiere is a great character. But he says the legacy you're born with isn't the one that you have to leave behind, and I want to hear all this stuff that's louder and prouder than I'd like it to be. That's what I think of. It's like, what are you doing to make your world a better place? If it's, I mean, obviously these people think that's what they're doing, and you know, good for you. But the rest of us who have to live in reality, realistically, we should keep those things, those hopes and dreams alive, I guess. So yeah, buy my books. And come check out my YouTube channel. I had to change the tag for it, sorry. And then I don't know if you just want to hit me up on Twitter and chat about other things. I'm happy to talk with people. I think one of the like, I love everybody on the channel, but I think one of the biggest downsides of having so many people is that I feel really awkward interrupting people. I've gotten better about that over the course of my time on here, of course, but it's a progress. It's progress for it's a process. Oh my gosh.
All right, jumping over. What you got, Nerdigans?
So I'm bounding. I had a story go viral in regards to the anime voice actors over at Crunchyroll getting a little woke in regards to matching the race of one of the main characters. So that's been really cool to see. I have another article that just went up in regards to our favorite notorious localizer, Katrina, getting up to it again. She's not apologizing for butcherizing another localization. On my channel, Nerdigans Inc., we covered probably the most woke and disturbing review for Anime, I'm Now Your Sister. I've never heard a read a review where the reviewer called the studio pedophiles, let alone the pedophilic gays. And yeah, similar to Katrina, she referred to trans people and getting advice on a gender bender series. So go figure, huh? We also covered the abysmal Chainsaw Man toy sales. Oh, that's no good because season 2 might not come because of it. We're talking like 1735 copies the first week and 325 copies this week. So season 2 not looking good. We cover just about not every manga, but we're getting there at this point on our channel, and we'll be back here next week as always. So stay tuned.
Cassie, how's it going?
Pretty good. So yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel called Classic Cage. Streamed the first 2 or so hours of the Hogwarts Legacy game. That's been really fun. I actually might continue streaming that. I will be playing as well off stream and then streaming casually while playing the game because I can't hold off that game. I have to play it. Like, I'm excited to go back and play right now as we speak. But also got a watch along going on for Reservoir Dogs. Basically, my channel members get to pick what films I watch a live stream. So basically, I pull it up on my end and viewers pull it up on their end. We watch the movie together and talk about it casually, and it's a really, really fun time. And it's been successful and cool, and I enjoy it. So yeah, basically, channel members recommend, and then we watch it all together as the community and as the community grows. So that's cool. And yeah, always got something going on one way or another. So yeah, tune in if you enjoy talking about video games or film or all that and more.
I know this guy wants to just go home. What you got coming up, Rob?
Yeah, a couple things that I heard while you guys were talking about the stuff you have coming up. So Legend is a movie that I rented as a kid, probably like 24 times. I just love that movie so much. I don't know that it totally works as an adult, but I still love it. I just think Tim Curry is so amazing in that movie. And C.S. Johnson, I just interrupt anybody when I want to talk. So just get into the habit, and it's like second nature.
I love you.
Yeah. So I will be reviewing the Infinity Pool, which is Brandon Cronenberg's new movie that I like quite a bit. We'll be also reviewing Knock at the Cabin, which we reviewed on last night's movie stream. And then I'm also going to be rewatching Any Given Sunday for probably the 15th time and writing an in-depth review before the Super Bowl. So look for that on my Twitter. And I'm continuing my John Woo filmography to talk about Hong Kong inspired, action movies. So all of that and more is coming up.
I'm looking forward to that.
All righty then. Last but certainly not least, Rick. I like to end the show before midnight. So.
All right, real quick. I've got a whole slew of upcoming reviews, including the last 3 Best Picture nominees that I have not seen or reviewed. All Quiet on the Western Front, The Banshees of Industry, and Women Talking. I'm also going to watch and review two films that I have worked so hard to avoid, but Jacob and Rob are dragging me, almost kicking and screaming, into watching The Nice Guys and the stripper thing, Magic Mike 3. I guess I just haven't been punished enough. That's pretty much it. That's all that's coming up for me.
Oh, thank God. So tomorrow night, Wednesday, Bounding in the Comics Black Pill stream. We'll be talking about a lot of these issues tomorrow night. So go join us over there at Bounding in the Comics YouTube. Spencer and John are doing a lot of YouTube shorts now. John is doing live streams. So we're trying to put out some more content there on that channel. So go follow us over there. This Saturday, I believe we're doing a UFC stream. So check us over there on Saturday night for some fights. I know the big fight is going to be Volkanovski and Islam, the 155 versus 145 champ. Should be a pretty good night there. And then this coming Monday, we're going to be reviewing Magic and Mike 3. I think it's just the third one. I'm not sure. But Magic and Mike 3 is on Monday night. And then episode 35 of the Barroom Podcast is next week here on Tuesday night. Hopefully it's shorter than this one because we're almost at 3 hours. I want to do the Culture Casino thing where we just kind of dick around for a little bit of time before we get that 3 hour mark. So for everyone here who joined us in the stream tonight, thank you for all my guests. For everyone joined us in the chat, Alex vs. Evil, Neo, Zio Dozer, Duke. You, who else did I miss? Josh, I'm not giving him any shout out. He doesn't need one. Yeah, Drax the Clown, Doba Fett. I want to make sure I didn't miss anyone here. I think Dre was here for a little bit too. Mephisto, who joined us earlier on the chat tonight. And to everyone, Spencer, he doesn't need a shout out either, who joined us listening to the show. Thank you. Hopefully we'll see you guys next week. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this show up so we can finally get out of here. So let's play the video of the day that we all loved from earlier in the show. We'll get it one more time. Good night. Goodbye. We'll see you next week.
Then your light shall